you give up your rights and let your life slide away? There's a race, so you win, way to race. Why complicate that feeling hate when it suffocates at the bottom? Don't take the bait, just walk away, resuscitate your nirvana. I feel a way I've never felt before. I finally found what I'm looking for. So, would you give up the fight if you had no time to even surrender? Would you give up your rights and let your life slide away? There's a race, so you win, way to race. Forever in our open arms, we're thankful we made it safe so far. We proudly show our battle scars because they made us true. Stop. Would you give up the fight if you had no time to even surrender? Would you give up your rights and let your life slide away? There's a race, so you win, way to race. There's a race, so you win, way to race.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 91st episode of FNV. FNV is short for Friday Night VTubing, and this is a show where I, your host, Zarastro, interview various VTubers from all over the community. And tonight, our wonderful guest isn't a VTuber, but is a fellow show host. Please welcome VTuber Talk. Jay, say hi, introduce yourself, and tell our listeners a fun little fact about yourself that they might not know.
Hello, I'm Jay. I host a show called VTuber Talk, and I'm a big troublemaker here because not only have I broken this of I'm not a VTuber on Friday Night VTuber, but I've also forced this to be off of Friday night because time zones suck. So I very much appreciate Zara's flexibility here and letting us have Saturday night not VTuber today. So yeah, and as far as fun facts go, I'm woefully uncreative, and that's the fun fact, and we'll get into it in the rest of the show, just how woefully uncreative I am, and how that has led to me being where I am today.
Oh yeah, well, do you want to just hop directly into it?
Might as well.
Might as well, then.
Take on this.
I'm gonna take the angle of you're a show host, right? So, why? That's the question. Why?
Well,
why did you?
Do you want the short answer, the long answer, or the very long answer?
We'll go with very long. That's always fun.
Alrighty, because this is probably gonna stomp on about 3 different talking points that you would have for this. So let's wind back
I'll
the
interject
clock.
and stuff and ask more questions as we go on.
Please,
or we can go
by
on
all
tangents.
means, because otherwise this might take several minutes. So do not hesitate to interrupt me and ask follow-ups or clarifications as we go.
Got it.
For over 10 years now, I've been fortunate enough to, on the side, do a lot of event work, conventions, concerts, mostly conventions. But bottom line is, I am an extrovert. Surprise, surprise. The talk show host is an extrovert, likes talking to people, likes interacting with people, likes organizing things. And it was 2020, and you know what wasn't happening in 2020? Events and conventions.
People going
that
outside.
Wasn't happening. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was inside a lot, and I was able to keep up a pretty active online social life, keep myself from going too crazy. And it was somewhere around, I think it was June 2020, that a friend of mine sent me a clip because we were on a video call for other things. We were just sort of sharing things around. They showed me a clip of Matsuri from HoloLive and was like, oh, that's neat. You know, I've heard of VTubers in concept that I'm familiar with Kizuna Ai and, you know, heard of her way back in the day, but certainly haven't watched any of this because, well, they're all Japanese, and this is nice that the clip has subtitles and everything, but I'm not going to tune in live because I don't understand what they are saying. But that's neat. That is a amusing clip. That's wonderful. Now, as
was it the Kizuna I fuck you?
Well, no, that was Miko with fuck you, or no, I guess Kizuna I did that as well. I don't remember.
To be fair, I feel like all VTubers have a clip of that.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm thinking of a Korone one as well, with her just going fuck you.
Yes.
And Miko.
Now, what was happening also at this time? I had stumbled across something called animal talking. And this is a guy named Gary Whitta, who is actually a Hollywood writer. He is best known for writing the screenplay for Book of Eli and Star Wars Rogue One. Among others, he's worked on some comics for DC, published a couple of books as well. And he, like many people in the early and mid months of 2020, weren't doing things. And also, like other people in the early and mid-months 2020, he was playing Animal Crossing because goodness knows Animal Crossing was in the right place at the right time.
I've not even touched it. That's because I don't own the Switch.
Well, that'll do it. Animal Crossing is something that I've played since the GameCube version way back in the day, and so I was already planning on getting it, and it just wound up being in the right place at the right time. That was how I socialized really for the first several months of lockdown and everything. And I stumbled across Animal Talking, and that Gary Whitta, this Hollywood writer, he loved late night talk shows. And he created a talk show set in the basement of his Animal Crossing house that he found a skyline wallpaper, set up a couch, desk, drum set for his co-host and, the classic talk show band. And being someone who's in Hollywood, he had a couple of friends that were pretty well known. And
so pretty much his setup pretty much looked like mine, just with the drum set.
But also he was doing this as the real talk shows were scrambling to go remote, because goodness knows live tapings weren't happening right then. So he had a couple folks on, word gets around, a couple more folks get on. He gets coverage in Variety, Entertainment Weekly, mainstream press coverage. He was on the front page of Twitch several times by the end. And while it started with it just being a couple of his close friends as guests, by the end of this, he had Brie Larson, so that's Captain Marvel. He had Josh Gad, Matt Mercer. He had Selena Gomez debut a new song and announce an album on his Animal Crossing show. He had Danny Trejo. He had just Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, on his show.
Shit.
And it became appointment viewing for me. I loved tuning in for this. And the last show that he did was a Halloween show, so October 31st of 2020. He did a short run of a Fall Guys talk show and then started getting work again. So he still streams. He's still around, but Animal Talking has not happened since Halloween 2020.
Fun fact, my debut date is the 29th of October 2020.
Oh, so you are coming up on your anniversary then.
Oh, yeah.
Just a couple months
My
ago.
third year.
Now, that was October 31st, 2020.
Yeah.
First week of September 2020, I see a little news article from, I think it was Anime News Network or something, saying that HoloLive is about to debut in English Wave.
Yep.
I was like, oh, I remember seeing a clip from a friend, and they'd shown me a couple other clips by that time as well. And it was like, well, it seems to be something that people enjoy. Might as well tune in. And it just so happened that the first of the debuts, Calliope Mori, was happening right when I started to work, and I work from home. So it's easy enough for me to just bring up the stream and have that on in the background as I start my work day. And I figured, all right, they'll probably be entertaining. I assume if they got into this agency that they have some level of proficiency, talent, and a good personality.
Pretty much.
And goodness knows Callie did and does.
Yeah. He's got heaps.
Goodness knows. And she actually just dropped a new EP, and woof, she's only gotten better. So much respect for her, and we'll probably get to that more.
I've not gotten to actually listen to her new stuff just yet.
It's still like hot off the presses this week, so
Oh,
don't worry,
shit.
you're not very
Okay.
far behind.
Okay.
But one of the big things was seeing that YouTube chat Zoom, seeing the excitement, seeing just the amount of positivity and energy. It was the closest thing I'd felt to a convention in about 9 months. And that is what tipped me into the rabbit hole. So I start regularly watching HoloLive content, get really into it. That becomes, and especially since Animal Talking isn't happening anymore, that's what I'm watching for several months.
Yeah.
And late December 2020, I am still bored. Something that I had done throughout the months of 2020 after March really is I spun up a bunch of different little projects of, okay, I have too much time on my hands. Let's organize this little thing with friends. Get that spun up, keep it going. Okay, well, I still have time on my hands. That I don't try and spin up 5 different plates at the same time.
Yeah.
But what I do is I'll spin up a plate, and once that one gets very comfortable and I think I can keep it going, I'll spin up another one, and I just keep going. That's how I keep myself occupied. And it was about getting to that point in my little cycle where it was, okay,
It's time for a new plate.
I still have time. It doesn't look like we're going to be going outside anytime soon. And I still have time. I'm not going to conventions. And
All right, you were.
I'm waist deep in VTuber stuff right now. And I sort of think to myself, all right, for all the things that I do, all these little plates, I've not made any big ones that are going to occupy a ton of time. That what I do is I build up small little projects, a small little fun thing to do with friends once a week, or just, okay, that's the D&D night. This is the
could you
night.
give like an example? Of, like, a
I
couple of those?
cannot. That's classified.
Okay,
But I do
okay.
things and stuff. But I knew I didn't have time to be a VTuber or to be a full-time streamer or even a regular streamer. That I knew I wouldn't have time to be live 3-4 times a week. But I could probably find one night a week to do things. And then I thought to myself, well, what would I want to do for a VTuber design? And I just came up with a blank. Like I said, I'm woefully uncreative. I had nothing. To this day, if I were to be a VTuber, like the closest thing I can think of, all right, maybe a guy in a suit, but I have no strong design ideas.
As you were saying, I was like, I thought of a question, and I was like, if you were to get the time and go full time and become a VTuber, what would you be?
Probably something along the lines of, suit and tie, not Ikemen pretty boy, not super young, that just, not business type of button up, but
so like a business casual average looking guy.
Blazer, probably maybe a tie, maybe not, I don't know, but I just don't have anything there that really inspired me. And then I remembered Animal Talking. And I was like, I've always been good, I like to think, at talking, at starting and continuing conversations. I'm relatively social. And a talk show is something that people don't necessarily expect to have every night.
Yeah.
And that, I hadn't really dove into the indie VTuber scene a ton. I knew that there were a lot of indie VTubers, but most of my watching at that point still had been HoloLive.
Yeah.
I'd seen a couple of the shoujo girls here and there, but that was the most of it. And I'd seen a couple indie VTubers. But the idea of a talk show occurred to me because I thought of Animal Talking. It was like, well, that's not happening anymore. And obviously, I would not have been competition for Animal Talking. It's very different stuff. But that's what brought me mentally to the concept of a talk show. And that's why this has been such a long walk of the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
These different moments all had to occur. And if you go back in time and interrupt it so my friend doesn't show me one of those
single
clips,
clip,
or if for some reason I don't end up discovering Animal Talking, I don't know if VTuber Talk exists.
where it, like, complete hypothetical, obviously, where do you think would you have been? What do you think would you have done? Do you think it would have led to this in some other way anyways?
It would depend on which of those points you change. If you
Let's
make it
say
so
you never
I still
found
see VTubers and I don't see animal talking, I probably would have found something. I don't know. Maybe I would have come to the idea of a talk show anyways. Maybe not. Maybe I'd have found some way. Maybe I'd have been a clipper. I'm not sure. If my friend doesn't show me that VTuber clip in June of 2020, do I still find HoloLive and VTubers? Entirely possible, because goodness knows they were everywhere, and that I'm a big anime fan, and for anime circles there was a lot of overlap. There is a lot of overlap, so it's certainly not impossible, but without those points as they were, I don't know if VTuber Talk happens in the way it does or as soon as it does.
Okay. Maybe you would have stumbled upon FNV.
It's possible that maybe I would have found that. Maybe I would have been inspired by other things. Maybe I would have attempted to just be a very inconsistent VTuber or content creator. Who knows? But it was the idea of doing a talk show because I really, really enjoyed animal talking, and it was like, all right, I want to be able to, maybe meet new people. Who knows? And the idea stuck. I spoke with a friend, Lane Blanc, who would become my first guest because, being somebody new in the community, the idea of just, we'll get
just
to this later.
Starting a show. No, I can
Mm-hmm.
understand that, because the pilot episode for FNV was also one of my close friends.
That's
and the second one as well, and the third one, because you don't know how to run a show yet. Yeah. So how are you gonna?
If you know how to run a show, you don't have a reputation yet.
Yeah. How are you gonna comfortably run a show with a brand new guest?
Yeah. Why would you have any reason to trust?
Exactly.
And that Lane acted as my initial sounding board because she knew that I was looking for something to occupy my time with. We've known each other for several years, and this is something that we've been public about. We discussed it during episode 1 of VTuber Talk. But I had DM'd her. I was like, hey, Lane, I'm thinking about doing this type of thing. I'm sure I'm not going to be the first talk show, but at the very least, I'm guessing there's fewer talk shows out there than VTubers.
Definitely.
Trying to stick out, trying to do something, not necessarily the first to be wholly unique. The concept of a talk show has been done, obviously, many, many times over the years.
Really,
but
it has.
To be at least, to have something that is perhaps a bit less common was the idea. And she said, yeah, I've seen a couple of shows around. There's certainly not a ton. And as for the name, it was low-hanging fruit. That I was surprised the name hadn't been taken. That I was thinking, all right, animal talking. What's easy branding here? Like marketing 101. All right, VTuber Talk. Search it up. Is this handle taken? It's not. I registered on Twitter and on Twitch that day just to make sure that the handles were taken. I was like, okay, I'm gonna.
This is mine now.
That if in a week I decide, all right, I actually don't like this idea, I'll just delete the accounts. The handles will be released back into the wild. That's totally fine. But I could tell that the VTuber space was booming at this point. That goodness knows the debut of Whole Myth was a turning point, a catalyst point for the VTuber community world as a whole. Yeah. That we certainly, I think very strongly that the VTuber community would have continued to grow quite rapidly without HoloMyth, but I don't think it is unreasonable to say that was a big turning point and a big
I think it would have grown rapidly, yes, but definitely not as rapidly.
Not to the same extent.
Because with HoloMyth just absolutely exploding and showing, a whole big part of the world, like, hey, VTubers can speak English too.
And part of it was really proving it even to HoloLive Cover Corp itself, that they obviously were not going to do all the investment required to audition and debut 5 talents without expecting a level of return on investment.
Yeah.
But at that point, they already had 5 successful JP branches or JP gens. They had already debuted their first Indonesian generation. So if this English thing kind of fizzles, it's a setback for the company, sure, but it's not going to sink the ship. It's not going to cause them to go bankrupt. That they have enough already out there, already being very successful, that, it's a risk to do anything new in business. And in business, if you want to succeed, you have to take a risk every so often. I don't think it was a crazy risk. That everything certainly pointed to this should work.
Yeah.
We don't really know how well it should work, how well it will work. Will it be moderately successful, or will it take off? And then I think it was Gura's cover of Ride on Time was a big thing, because that particular video, that particular karaoke cover did numbers on YouTube. It made the rounds.
Didn't she?
And a couple of her clips, and obviously her just heard round the world. Her just exploding, but also Callie coming out of the gate with an EP already, and
fucking ready right there.
Very good.
Yeah,
that was one of the big things for me. Not just seeing chat, Zoom, and feeling the convention energy, but also, Callie had a great personality. I was playing "Would You Please R.I.P." on repeat basically that whole week. The rest of her debut EP had just these delightful, fun, nerdy raps that are really unlike a lot of the stuff she does nowadays. That if you go back and listen to Deadbeats and just a couple of those other ones, that it's nerdy stuff, and I really enjoyed it. And I enjoy her new stuff as well. That really, she's so damn talented. But that was a lot of what got me into it, and that it got a lot of people into the rabbit hole as well, that you see in the VTuber community. Just so many people starting to debut in the months immediately after that.
Yeah. And I mean, they're going back to, HoloLive looking at potential ROI for, doing an English gen. There were already a lot of indies before HoloLive.
They were not the first, but
so they could see, there is some audience for it, at least.
But there hadn't been any major corporations with English talent at that point in time. That, keep in mind, the shoujo would not formally be created until
later.
Much later. Niji Sanji hadn't had any English talents yet.
Nope.
And, all right, it's certainly apparent that there are some English VTubers out there, but they don't necessarily know, will that fit into the Japanese business model? Yeah. And
idol culture and all that.
Very well. And that was the thing, that I don't think it's ridiculous to say that Myth went way above and beyond what Cover ever would have expected. They certainly wouldn't have expected, all 5 of those talents hitting 1 million subscribers in under a year, catalyzing a lot of the company at large. And then obviously Gura just doing a speed run and suddenly becoming the biggest talent in the company, and in a course of 6 months surpassing Kizuna Ai herself. Becoming literally, at least by YouTube subscriber metrics alone, the biggest VTuber in the world.
Yeah. And plus, having not just expanding the audience to just the English people. They also, some of those just English-speaking people still win over to the Japanese streams, even though they don't speak it.
Yeah.
It's so much so that some of the Japanese VTubers started learning English. I mean, I know Toa is learning English, and Astel from from Hollow Stars.
Hollow Stars.
Yeah, he was one of the first Hollow Stars members I found, and still my favorite. When I hopped into his stream, this was like 2021 probably. He was already speaking kind of English. Like I could type in his chat in English, and he'd read it, and then try and translate it, and then try and respond in English. Not to mention that there would be translators in the chat, just doing God's work, fucking translating what he's saying.
And then there's just the statistics there of, obviously, not everyone who speaks English speaks it as their first language.
Yeah.
And not everyone who speaks English is going to be based in North America, but English is the most spoken language in the world. Per a simple search right now, 1.452 billion total speakers. I need to look up, I think it's, I don't know the exact number of people who speak Japanese. It's a lot less. It's a lot less. And especially the number of people who speak Japanese, if you are outside of Japan, very low. So they, by an order of magnitude, multiple orders of magnitude, increase their potential audience overnight. 125 million people speak Japanese.
125 versus what was it? Let's just make it 1.25 billion.
Billion.
Yeah, that's 2 orders of magnitude.
It's a ton.
Yeah.
And like you said, a non-zero number then started to filter into the Japanese streams as well. Not all able to speak Japanese, but at least trying to enjoy, and that obviously Whole Live and other companies as well.
Yeah.
Their talent departments do their jobs, and they do them very well. They bring in good talent that make people want to look around and see, oh, well, I enjoy this person. Let's see the other people here at the company, or check out some other companies or indies. And
not to mention collabs really also.
Cool
where if you let's say you just watched Cali, but now Cali does a collab with Kiara, and it's like, oh, hey, I like how Kiara fucking does this one thing. Then you might go over there. Yeah.
You know, so that's how I get a good portion of my guests. That I don't have a system for how I get guests, or I don't look for them to have a certain number of followers or viewers or whatnot. I just hop around streams and watch and sort of ask the question to myself, do I think I could have a conversation with this person for 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
That's what I look for. That's really all that I look for.
Yeah, I look for an hour minimum. Because time zones.
Very true.
Because I mean, I start at like 10 p.m. my time. So it's like, I can't go too late. With the housing economy as it is right now, I still live with my parents. So I can't be too loud in the later hours of the evening. Usually that's why I do it on a Friday, because if it was a weekday, no. No.
Makes sense. But yes, that is the very long version and more of how VTuber Talk happened, why it happened, influences, inspirations, and circumstances, because it's been a heck of a journey. That I'm at the 2.5-year mark myself now. The initial debut of VTuber Talk, the account was made, I think it was January 2nd, 2021, and the first show was January 15th, 2 weeks later. And that's how long it took me to. I mean,
you said you took the name and then you were waiting a week, so we can knock a week off of that. So you took a week to prep the first show, which is honestly that's better than me.
Getting the back end stuff stood up pretty quickly. I more so say the week of, that was me telling myself, all right, I'm not committed to this necessarily yet. That if I decide as I'm setting up, okay, this is way more complex than I thought, or if just for whatever reason I realize, this was sort of a spur of the moment thing, and as I'm setting it up, I realize my heart's not actually super into this, I'm not as eager as I thought I was, that I was entering into it with the mental backdoor of, okay, I'm not committed. This is for me. This is a project for me. And if I decide that I don't want to, that's okay. Obviously,
you had an out.
but I was allowing myself that consideration. Yeah.
I just quickly went to check, just out of curiosity. My first episode was on November 12th. It's either 12th or 21st. I swapped the numbers maybe. Of 2021. So yeah, and I think that it took me 2, maybe 3 weeks to set that up. Because I had announced it, or I had announced that I was working on it with my 1-year anniversary, so that would be October 29th. Oh, it's November 12th. Okay, so that's about 2 weeks then as well.
Well, you also had been creating content at that point. That
True.
FNV wasn't your debut. You already had OBS installed.
Mm,
You already had.
You still had to
assets
learn all of that
to
shit.
Yeah, that I had done a basic streaming setup thing for a friend because they couldn't run a thing, and they asked me to just run a one-off thing for them on a channel that they have, and it was a very bare bones setup. So I had at least, at that point, I was using Streamlabs because I knew that that was going to be a bit easier to work with.
Yeah.
And so it was really, really basic, but I at least knew sort of how to do just bare bones stuff.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing. At that point, I was working off a laptop, which I had gotten recently because I didn't stream at that point. And when I needed a new computer, I was like, all right, well, what do I need? What do I need to spend? I don't stream. I don't do anything crazy like that. So I don't need a very powerful system. I don't need to spend several $1,000s on a rig. I'll just go with a MacBook as I have in the past. That's fine. I don't, I watch streams a lot, but I don't actually do streaming. So it'll be all right.
It'll
and
be
then
fine.
6 months later, start a talk show. And since this laptop is only 6 months old, I don't want to buy a new one.
Yeah.
So I want to keep things functionally, technically, as low resource as possible. That was probably another factor of why I went.
Streamlabs.
Yeah, and it worked fine because keep in mind, I'm not streaming games or anything. So.
And you don't have like VTube Studio and VBridger or PRPR Live or even worse, Base Rig.
The vast majority of the resources was just the pure output to Twitch and the incoming stream of the guest model.
Yes.
And that was fine. I was able to stream, and even with my 8 gig of RAM laptop, it was fine. I was able to do that. I think that's also part of why I landed on a talk show as opposed to being a VTuber or streaming games myself, because I realized if I wanted to do that, that
you would need a better PC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a thing that's
upgraded though. So
okay. Do you now have a solid PC?
Yes,
okay.
I invested in a very nice PC for myself just before my 2nd anniversary, actually.
Oh,
so just at the start of this year, and I wanted to have that for several reasons. That one, more games have been coming out on PC that I wanted to get, and I couldn't do that on my old laptop.
Yeah.
That I historically have been very much a console gamer. But also, after 2 years of doing VTuber Talk, even though my channel's not monetized, this is a passion project for me, and I, for whatever little amount I might make in subscriber revenue, it's not worth the hassle of putting it on my taxes, frankly. Yeah. So, but I wanted to leave myself the option now that after as long as I've gone, that if I get that flash of inspiration, or if something changes and I decide, okay, I want to try something different, that I have the option to do so now. But also now I can just, if I want to add more bells and whistles to VTuber Talk, simply that I can, and that I don't need to be worried about running into the issues of running a stream off an 8 gig laptop. So I actually did my first ever gaming stream. It was as a reward for my 2nd anniversary charity marathon, and it was doing a Elden Ring stream, and ran just fine. You're not going to see me stream games with any frequency. Like I said, that was specifically as a charity reward, but I couldn't have done that without actually having a proper rig.
Imagine trying to stream Elden Ring on that old MacBook. You'd be watching a slideshow.
Yeah, it would not have worked. I don't even know if that machine would have been able to run Elden Ring at a decent
just
frame
on
rate.
Its own, let alone streaming.
Yeah.
You know, that's a thing that I've had to learn. You know, with me streaming games, having a weaker PC can be tough when it's quite the balancing act that you need to do with like having like deciding, okay, turn the graphics down. Okay, I'm still getting a bad frame rate. It's time for me to go to a PNG. Okay, it's still struggling a bit. Time to close everything that's not needed.
Yep.
And eventually it's just my OBS and the game open, and that's it.
VTuber Talk was designed to be able to run with cardboard and duct tape. Obviously, for the first year, I didn't even have this logo. And to this day, I don't even use a reactive during my shows. I am a disembodied voice. I've sort of tinkered with the idea of starting to use the logo and having it be a reactive, because every so often there will be people that jump into stream or get rated in and are like, wait, who's talking? I don't see the model on screen moving. Did they lag out or something? Because it's not... If you don't know what you're getting into necessarily, especially if it is from a raid, that you might not intuitively realize. So I'm sort of bouncing around the idea. Do I want to do a PNG? Would I want to have some visual representation of myself? Maybe, maybe not. At this point, being a disembodied voice is kind of my brand to the people who know me. So it's almost like having a model. I've never said that I will never have a model.
Yeah.
Never say never. But it also feels like having a model at this point would almost be weird.
You're like, but my brand is just, the voice.
But it's something that I've tinkered with, and like I said, I never say never. I don't like painting myself into a box. I always like having options.
Having an out as well. But yeah, no, I do. I mean, let's talk about branding, shall we? So, what were your ideas for building a brand around VTuber Talk when you eventually got it going? Did you have?
Like I said, I'm woefully uncreative. The entire brand was just, it's a talk show. It's very basic, that as most talk shows do, and as you do here on FNV, the city skyline background. I don't even have the couch and desk setup since I'm a disembodied voice.
Where are you going to sit?
It's a very simple thing, and that I try to run it like a talk show. That one of the things I always tell folks is think late night with Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert. This is not 60 Minutes. This isn't a hard-hitting interview. I'm not going to be asking a bunch of tough questions. There's not going to be curveballs. This is meant to be a conversation, very much what you have here. And that more than anything, the brand, so to speak, that I have done my best in, that I feel I have done well in creating, is one of professionalism. For me, professionalism is everything. Just respect, flexibility, understanding. If my guest at the end of the day can walk away from VTuber Talk and say, I had a good time. If my name can come up in conversation, and for someone to be like, hey, have you heard of VTuber Talk? I'm like, oh yeah, Jay, he's all right. You can go on the show and have a good time. I don't need to be the biggest or the best. I don't need people saying, oh man, he's the best talk show out there. He's the best host out there. People want to be complimentary. I'll certainly take it.
Oh yeah.
But for me, if my name can come up in conversation, people can be like, yeah, he's a cool guy. He's not a creep. You can go on a show and have a good time.
Yeah.
That's everything to me. If people can, walk away that time is a resource. Time is valuable. I certainly don't have a big enough platform to say, oh, come on my show and there'll be a whole bunch of new eyes on your content, that there's going to be a whole bunch of viewers, or I certainly can't pay. I'm not making anything on this myself. That's time that people could be spending on their own channel, getting revenue from bits, donations, super chats, whatever, or just spending on themselves, or
working
on
on like off stream stuff, like editing shorts or something.
So if they're going to take time out of their day to be on my show, I want to be damn sure that they have a good time.
Yes.
And that they can walk away and say, that was fun, that was time well spent.
Yes. I can 100% get behind that. and that's usually something that I aim for as well. And actually, with the Q&A that we do, we usually have our resident counter, preferably just Simon over there in chat. We usually have him asking in the Q&A, right as I say we're about to end it, is he usually asks, did you have a good time?
Yeah, that's really the focus for me.
Yeah.
And that I mentioned to you just before we went live that in a lot of ways, not intentionally, VTuber Talk has been crafted in a way that almost comically is averse to growth and viewer retention. It is everything you cannot do in content creation.
Consistency, it's kind of there. A niche, yeah, it's got a niche.
I schedule around my guests. At least you normally have it on Friday nights. That's consistency.
Normally.
Meanwhile, I only stream once a week. That's a bad idea. I only deal in collabs. That's a terrible idea. I don't have a Discord because I did community management for a time and I ran a Discord and I never want to do it again. And
what if I hired you to run mine?
You would need to pay me a lot of money, a lot of money, that I have no interest in running a Discord. And I know full well running a Discord is essential for community building and just for getting out information for people who might not have notifications on Twitter or Twitch. That's a big thing. I don't care. I'm fine with not running a Discord. And like I said, only doing collabs, that's a bad idea. That's not a good way. You do
You're not
going to
grow.
Yeah.
Because then eventually people will, with if you're just doing collabs, like I noticed this at the beginning when I started, I did an absolute fuck ton of collabs. It was just collab after collab after collab. There was one weekend where I had 3 Among Us collabs in a row, like directly after each other, 3 different groups, and it was madness. And you don't really see growth from that because the people who are watching, like in that case, they were also streaming. So you're not going to grow at all. In this case, speaking,
to this day, 75 at minimum % of my viewers for any given show are fans of the guest.
Yeah.
Maybe after 2.5 years, I have a few sort of regulars. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I've come back to a couple of your shows, but usually I catch the VODs. Like I'll almost never be there live because, well, time zones.
Time zones.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I'm not doing this for growth. And that's another part of why the show's not monetized, because since this is all I do, I don't want people thinking that I'm trying to use them or take advantage of them. And that
no, actually, I think because it's the only thing you do, they can't say that. With it, where it's like with me, where I'm running the show and then I'm also still running, my streams throughout the week. It's like there's a bigger argument of, okay, there is a bit of motivation for me to do the show to try and grow as well, because that was one of the things behind it. Because but that wasn't the main thing. The main thing was I wanted to do something unique. Well, quote unquote unique. Something you don't see as often. Let's rather put it that way.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, part of why I fell into the idea of a talk show as well, because I wanted to do something that was at least a bit uncommon. But bottom line is, I am abundantly aware that the things that I do, the way VTuber Talk is set up, is not smart for growth. And that's okay, because growth isn't the goal of VTuber Talk. The goal of VTuber Talk is for me and the guest to have a good time. And 99% of the time, if the people on stream are having a good time, chat's going to have a good time too. So that already plays into itself. And whether that means it's a dozen people in chat also having a good time with us, or a couple hundred people, either way, that's a win for me. And I can say, after over 2.5 years, VTuber Talk is working exactly as designed. That I am more than fine with
where it is.
Slow growth. I don't really care. There aren't goals really. That for me, it's okay. I want to be able to slowly but surely improve. I can certainly tell that I've become a better interviewer, a better host now than I was 2.5 years ago.
I don't even want to go back and watch my first couple interviews.
I rarely watch VODs. I just can't.
I can't either. I've done it when I edit it down to the audio only versions. I'll download it. I'll go to the beginning. I'll cut out the intro song and I'll cut out the outro song, and that's it. The rest I'm keeping.
That's what I do for YouTube. That I stream it on Twitch, download it, chop out the starting soon screen, and put it on YouTube wholesale, and that's just so I have full archive, because Twitch isn't going to retain everything, and
no, it ain't.
It's just nice to have it up there. I've considered streaming on YouTube, and for a while I'd been meaning to co-stream. I didn't want to do that earlier because, again, I didn't want to stress out my laptop. And by the time I got my new one, I forgot that I could, because up until recently, if you weren't an affiliate, you could multi-stream. They recently changed that policy, so now I can't. And I've considered, do I want to stream on YouTube?
They don't enforce it, to be honest. But it's not worth it. It's not worth the risk if that,
But yeah, I still love VTuber Talk. Every show is different, not only for the guests, but also for the chat. And that's kind of one of the benefits of most of the chatters being fans of the guest, because it means that the vibe in chat matches the guest. They've pre-selected each other. It's great.
Yeah.
And it means that
another
for me
thing,
as the host,
and another thing that I like about, most of the chat being the guests' viewers, is that the viewers that come from the guest for the guest, they might learn things and stuff, as we're talking, that they might not know. So it's like, we'll talk about, let's say, let's go to episode 52 with Punk Lopi. That's just one that's in my mind now, where she said she can fly. She has a pilot's license. Where it's like, how many people who watch her know that? But the people that did come and watch the episode live then, or watch the VOD afterwards, they now find that out.
Yeah, that's something for me as well, that not every guest is going to have something that, it's not a secret, but it's just something that hasn't come up on stream. There's not always going to be that super fun fact, that little known thing that maybe even the regulars weren't aware of, but every so often you get it. Yeah. The way that I actually do my streams for setup, and this is something I've been very open about on my own show, and it's something I learned about from Animal Talking, I do a pre-interview. So sometime before the show, usually the week of the show, I do everything I can to not have it be the day of the show, because I want there to be some buffer and for us to go into the show as fresh as possible. But I make a point to have what is usually about a 30-minute call with the guest ahead of time. And that's when I just ask, what do you want to talk about? What are the things that you like? What are your passions? What will make you light up? And that, I'd say half my guests are into anime. But if I just blindly ask every guest, hey, what anime are you watching? What anime are you into? Half of them are going to say, ooh, I don't really watch anime. And then it's awkward for everyone, and I want to avoid that. And I assume, during the show, as tangents happen, that I might ask a question, it might be in a swing and a miss, and that's fine. Yeah. I'm not necessarily looking for a perfect batting average, but if I can take a bit of time before the show and set up some T-balls for myself to increase that batting average, that's what I do.
Yeah, so you could. Oh, sorry, I had a bubble in my throat. So you can clearly you can see that there's a difference between how you do that and how I do that, because I don't do that, as you might have noticed. Yeah,
and it's one of the things I very much encourage others, that I am not afraid to talk about that behind the scenes thing, and that I will even say during the show, we spoke earlier in the week and you mentioned that you really like yada yada, or I know that you really enjoy this, that, the other. I'm okay saying that, and I actively encourage folks. I think the pre-interview is my not-so-secret sauce. The amount of difference it makes, and I've done this since episode 1, since the show with Lane, because I knew about it from Animal Talking. It's obviously, you can do a show without a pre-interview. I think it is incredibly valuable, though, that if you're able to find the time, and obviously given schedules, it's not always going to be viable. I've had a guest or two actually say, I'd rather not do a pre-interview. I just want to go in and sort of wing it.
Yeah.
And that has only happened a couple times, but for the personality of those particular guests, it's not really surprised me. And those shows have been phenomenal anyways.
Yeah.
But I always say to folks that I've had one or two people approach me in DMs and say, hey, I'm considering doing a talk show. Do you have any advice? And the first thing I say is pre-interview. Not required, but that's my biggest piece of advice. If
So that's
you want
what
to
you
do a
say.
talk show. Yeah. And frankly, for collabs in general, that being able to overcome the introductory awkwardness ahead of time is so valuable. And you're not always going to have that introductory awkwardness, but just being able to sort of stem it, if it's there, goes a long way. And then obviously that I go into my shows having this list of things. I type it up in a Google Doc and I share that Google Doc with the guests. You know, I don't expect that I'm going to remember everything from the pre-interview a couple days later. I don't want them to have to worry about remembering it either. It's just a bullet point list. It's not like big paragraphs or anything.
Stuff we talked about.
That we know this is our foundation. These are some good starting points, and that tangents go from there. Most of the time, the best stuff is the tangents, the stuff that we stumble upon or don't expect, and that's fine. That's great.
Yeah,
but
I've had
way,
guests say before we go on, because you know I do the like 15 to 20 minutes before we start. I'll be like, let's hop on a call. Let's just chat.
It's smart to have a V test.
Yes, it is. But that's also just the time I use to get to know my guests, because I like going in blind and not knowing too much about them, because that way I can have the perspective from somebody who doesn't know anything about them, like anybody who might stumble upon the show. So yeah, and then I've had guests say
a wrong way to do things. And
no,
that's just how I do things. But I absolutely think, you know, like I said, I don't know.
I might do it for season 2.
Else who does pre-interviews. I encourage it, but obviously it is not a requirement, and especially if for you that you feel that you work better as a host without it, then you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I might try it for season 2, but yeah. And another thing
I make a point in those pre-interviews to ask, is there anything that you don't feel like you get to talk about a lot on stream? That I'm not asking you to divulge a secret, but for those things that even their regulars might not know, of just, you know, is there something that you wish you had the chance to talk about more? Because if there is, I'd love to give you that chance. And
let's shine a light on it.
75% of the time, people say, not really. I really am pretty open about all the things I enjoy.
But those
every so often,
25%,
like, oh yeah, I just don't get to talk about this. And really the biggest time that's ever happened, I had Victoria the Sun Eater on, just phenomenal person. Please check her out. And she mentioned, well, I played soccer for 20 years, and come to think of it, I'd never mentioned it on stream. Like, 20 years.
Wow.
And sure enough, we bring that up on stream. Her mods, her editor didn't know. It was a moment. It was so cool because she has done the big 3 of any sport, really. That she played soccer, she coached soccer, and she was a referee.
Oh shit.
All 3.
All 3 of those.
So many cool stories, and that it was this huge part of her life that wasn't
nobody knew of,
actively being withheld, but
it wasn't brought up.
Sports don't really come up during streams very often. It's just sort of a blind spot.
Yeah.
Inadvertently. And being able to have that was super cool.
Yeah, no, I can get that, and I do agree. You know, tangents and stuff like that, they're the lifeblood of talk shows like these.
And it just, sometimes you get those big hits like that, sometimes not, but that being able to be flexible and just finding the things, like I said, that make them light up, because surprise, surprise, it's a lot easier to get people to talk when they're talking about things they like.
Definitely.
That's the cheat code, folks. Just ask people what they like to talk about, and, you know, it is very rare. Even people that are introverted, if you get them on a topic that they are passionate about, they'll go.
Yeah. So, with that, what do you like? What's something that you'd want to talk about? Which let's see if we can move away from just talk shows.
Well, that's difficult because surprise, surprise. One of the things, obviously, I do enjoy VTubers. That I'd say what I end up spending a lot of my free time on is I'm watching VTubers or I'm watching anime or I don't play as many games as I used to. Part of that might be because I end up consuming a lot of games via watching streams.
Yeah.
But that and obviously conventions, which fortunately have started up again. And that's really nice. But that was the other thing of VTuber Talk. I wanted the design to be such that inevitably, whether it was in a year or 2 years or more, that conventions came back, that I didn't want the return of, well, normalcy to mean the end of VTuber Talk.
Yeah.
And that's also why I only tried to make it once a week. And obviously it has been able to persist in that way.
Yeah, because with it being, once a week and with you going back to normalcy, then at least it's still what's the word?
There's no regularity anyways. So
it's still achievable. That's the word I wanted. Still an achievable thing to do semi-regularly.
Yep, and sometimes I end up going 7, 8, 9 days between shows just because scheduling, or I go on a vacation or whatever. And every so often I'll have 2 shows in 5 days. I think the most I've ever done, I think I once had 4 shows in 7 days. That was an anomaly, and it was just, that's how the guest availability lined up. And I was like, well, I'm not doing anything those nights anyways, so here we go.
What's been the biggest scheduling nightmare for you?
Really, time zones. That's it.
Just that?
I've had guests from Europe. I've had guests from Australia. I've had guests in Japan. And when you get to, it's a 12, 14-hour difference. That's
I feel like there I'm at least in a bit of a better position time zone wise, being closer to the center, where it's like nobody's more than like 9 or maybe 10 hours ahead of me.
Well, most of the time, just statistically speaking, most of my guests end up being in North America somewhere. Yeah. So the time zone differential isn't actually that big for me usually. But when there is a difference, it's usually a big one. And we make it work that it usually ends up having to be on a weekend like this, but that happens. And other challenges really just, the big other challenge is the outreach.
Oh,
just
let's talk about that.
Contacting people, and that, different people will have different
reactions,
channels of communication available.
Oh, yeah.
And different people are more responsive on certain channels than others. And if you have never communicated with someone before, you don't know which channels are best, because, well, it's gotten even worse now that Twitter doesn't allow you to DM somebody who you aren't mutuals with unless they have a particular setting set, because not everybody realizes that there's been that change. And then it's by default. And also, at least for the first couple of weeks, it would revert itself. That there was an instance for even me that when I went to double check, that it had flipped it back to must be mutuals. And I saw things of other people being like, hey, double check your settings, folks, because it's not saving properly, that it's undoing itself.
Yeah.
And I think it's become more consistent now, but still not everyone realizes it, or some, very understandably, don't want Twitter DMs.
Yeah.
And then it's, okay, what's the proper way that...
How do I reach out to you if
DMs are open, that it will sometimes go to the message request thing. And
I know I end up there.
Their message requests for some
don't.
Some don't, and then it's just unseen. But
and Twitter deletes those. Twitter deletes those message requests after 60 days.
Yep.
So you'll send an outreach. It'll end up in their message requests. They don't check them, and then boop, it's gone. And then what
And-
I've done
and
is
there's-
I've followed up.
Some will have emails.
Yeah.
Some will have Discord, but then it's settings there. And also, all right, how often do they check their email? Is it getting caught in a spam folder somehow? You don't really know. And my general rule of thumb is I will try 2 methods of contact and follow up once on each a week after initial contact, because people are busy. Sometimes you read a message and you're like, oh, I'm going to totally respond to that later, and you forget.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Yeah,
Or just
that has,
maybe-
yeah.
Or someone's on vacation, or it gets caught in a spam folder and they don't check their spam folder very often. You never really know, but also you don't want to be a pest, but you also don't want to totally just think, all right, I sent out one thing, they didn't respond.
They're no
you
longer.
lose out on things that way.
Yeah.
So my balancing act has been 2 channels of contact and 1 follow-up on each. And if they don't respond,
So
I
be it.
assume that so be it. And that's fine. That I don't necessarily know if they ever saw any of my messages.
Yeah.
Maybe they did, maybe they forgot, maybe they just aren't interested and felt awkward about a declination. I don't know. But that's all right. And you have to be all right with that. And you can't
Yeah.
take it personally
It's
or
just
think,
how
oh
it-
gosh, you blame me. It's
It's just how it works.
how it goes.
if
And then
if
it-
after you've done like 10 episodes of a show, hell, even before then, you'll already have learned or should have learned that lesson. That's like, okay, yeah, no, it's you can't do anything. You can't force a guest to come onto your show. How?
Yeah.
How are you gonna do that?
And earlier on, I was fortunate enough to get some pretty fast responses, and that I would usually schedule the week of. And nowadays, I will try to get it at least a week and a half in advance, usually a bit more. But even then, it feels like it's feast or famine sometimes, because, I'll send out a bunch of different invites, and I try to not send too many out at the same time, because I don't want to hit an issue of, all right, a bunch of people respond, and then I need to say yes to one, and then like delay a bunch of others. But
Yeah.
I've started tending towards that, because sometimes you end up, all right, I'll send out 1 or 2 today, see if they respond. All right, 2 days later they haven't responded, I'll send out another 1 or 2, and you wait. And then as schedules get closer, it's like, okay, I still don't have a guest this week,
Yeah.
and I don't want to be scrambling. So over time, I've become more comfortable with reaching out to more people at the same time. But even then, it feels like it's feast or famine, because I swear every time I get to the end of what I've had scheduled, and it's like, okay, I'm trying to schedule people and I'm just not getting responses. And then all of a sudden I get 3 responses in less than a week.
Yeah.
And it's like all at once.
No,
It's like,
that's
okay,
that's what's happened with me as
great.
well.
Yeah.
Where
But then you have to shuffle around.
Yeah. Whereas like I usually reach out to, let's say, about 10 to 20 people at a time.
Oh,
Because-
that's way more than I do.
Yeah, I know, because I know I don't get a lot of responses. My response rate is probably like 20, maybe 25%. So out of those 20 people that I reached out to, I got like 3 to 5 guests placed. So yeah, and that's only people with open Twitter DMs, because I prefer just doing everything through Twitter DMs and then moving into Discord later. Because I don't know, it's just the easiest for me to organize it that way, because I use multiple Twitter lists as well to organize people. Like, okay, these are people I want to reach out to, so I'll put them on a list for future outreach. And then, okay, these I've already reached out to once, they have not replied, but I'll get back to them. And then these ones I want to invite, but their DMs are closed. These ones are pre-debut VTubers, so I'll wait for them to debut and have a bit of content, at least like 4 or 5-ish months worth of experience with streaming, so that we have stuff to talk about. Because a lot of people come into VTubing, brand new. They don't know a single fucking thing about streaming or just content creation in general. So giving them that time is useful.
Yeah. I don't really have much rhyme or reason as to what I will use as my first point of contact. Earlier on, I mostly used Discord, but then you run into folks who have closed Discord DMs, which is very understandable.
I do.
And for a while, it was mostly Discord and Twitter, and I noticed that for folks who didn't have closed DMs, Discord usually gets a better response rate, but more and more people, understandably so, have closed DMs,
or they just simply don't have their Discord publicly available.
That too,
unless it's like their Discord server. But even then, if you join the server, usually in the rules they're like, don't DM the VTuber either.
Thing, and
so that's why I don't. Yeah, so that's why I don't do Discord invites like that usually, because most of the time it's been like that. If I'm gonna be honest.
It really depends. That I will sometimes join a server, and obviously very first thing you should always do, check the rules. Is there something that says do not DM the server owner? And if that's a rule, then I don't break the rule. And I then will usually look, all right, are Twitter DMs open? If they are, I might try there. I've had instances where people have zero publicly available methods of contact that sometimes they'll have on either their Twitter or somewhere in their Twitch panels, for business inquiries, here's the email. But every so often, I get someone closed Twitter DMs, no email listed on Twitch or anywhere else.
Hey, how do you reach them?
I'm like, all right, I guess I can't reach out to you.
The only way then would be to wait for them to be live and then shoot them a message in chat, but that doesn't you don't do that either, because that's
never invited a guest live, and that is something I don't think I will ever do, because it is not fair to put someone on the spot in public like that. That is, I would strongly discourage that for anybody who is looking to collab in general. It doesn't matter if you're a talk show host or not. Don't do that. Unfortunately, it's relatively few and far between cases of there's no contact method, but in that case, just cut your losses. Yeah, and that's how it is, and that's okay.
Yeah,
a little disappointing.
There are many VTubers that you can invite. Just that one not having their stuff available, oh well.
Yeah, and if they have gone out of their way to not have any available method of contact, that's probably for a reason.
Yeah, like they everybody has a reason for doing something. So yeah, no, honestly, that don't reach out to people on their streets.
But that's the balancing act of, I've had a whole bunch of people, I would say probably a third to a half of the people I've had on responded to the follow-up and like, oh my gosh, totally missed that first message, or oh, I meant to respond and the week got busy, thank you so much for following up. That one follow-up, worded politely, just hey, following up here, I'm sure you're super busy, wanted to make sure my message didn't get buried, hope you're having a good day. That's all. And if they don't respond to that, so be it. But I think it is perfectly reasonable and appropriate to send one follow-up, and that it does make a difference, because people are busy. People have lives. People have other commitments. And it's like sometimes things slip through the cracks.
Yeah, and anytime you read up anything about how to run any kind of show, whether it's just a normal podcast, a talk show, any kind of thing with like that featuring guests, they will always say do follow-ups, because people will miss your cold outreach. But with that, do you have like templates that you use?
Yep.
You do?
Sure do.
Yep.
That my main invitation template has changed a little bit over the 2.5 years. It's largely the same. I've restructured some phrasing, cleaned things up. During the early days, I would actually list out the Twitter bio or the Twitter links for my past guests. Somewhere around episode 20, I was like, all right, it's a bit obnoxious to be putting this many links in a thing, and now it's just. I
just mentioned some of my favorite guests, or I will mention some of the more well-known guests, Like, for example,
My line is
I'll
just-
mention Punkalope because a lot of people know her. So if they see, oh, okay, he's had this person on, so they probably trust him. So, you know, that gives me a better chance of a response, maybe, if they see her name.
My line is just, if you have any questions for me, please don't hesitate to ask. Or
I
if
have
you
that.
would like that I say,
I think I have that verbatim in mine as well. Because the one I sent you is different. The one I sent, the outreach I sent you was typed out. It wasn't the cold outreach template. But I'm opening it up real quick so that I can just send it to you. And then you can
the line
see.
I have, it's, if you have any questions about how I run the show, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Or if it would make you more comfortable, feel free to talk with any of my past guests. The full list is available on my Twitch page.
Okay, I do not
it's
have
not
that.
practical to put so many links, and I'm always scared of people thinking that I'm picking favorites or anything, and I don't necessarily want to. I'm always scared of name dropping, I guess. So it just ends up being easier of saying, hey, you know, check out the list.
Check out
and
the list.
Yeah. They can glance around, and if there's a name that they recognize, that they can reach out or at least see, all right, you know, all these people have been on, and that in and of itself is sort of a resume.
Yeah. Like, I've not updated it yet. So I specifically, I say, you know, we've done over 90 episodes. Just to, you know, add a tiny bit.
The one you sent me says we've had almost. You need to update that.
Yeah, I know. But that's because I haven't done outreach again since we've hit 90.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I did the outreach, we were on like 87. So I did the outreach, and now I'm booked up until episode, well, basically 100. I'm trying to get someone special.
You're way farther in advance than I am.
Yeah, because I don't like the struggle of trying to find a guest in the week. I hate it. I want to reach out to my guests somewhere early in the week, have them set and booked because time zones.
Yeah.
And
I usually, like I said, I aim for like a week and a half to a month in advance. But that ends up being, you know, usually 2 to, I think the most people that I've had queued up at once is 6. But if we're at 91 and you already have through 100, like, you know, good on you for being able to have that many.
I've still got episode 98 open. I'm speaking to a specific guest, but we're still in the booking phase of, you know, getting them. But otherwise, I think all of the other episodes are already booked. That and episode 100, I companies. I'll just say that.
Very exciting, yeah. That
have you worked with company VTubers before?
No.
Not at all.
Well, actually, no. I take that back. Yes, I have.
You have.
I've worked with folks from V Reverie.
Okay. Who have you had on?
All of Catalyst. I've had all of Catalyst, their first generation on. So Ophelia Midnight, Nova Awakami, and Lilia Prisvale.
Okay. I think I recently reached out to Ophelia, I think. No, I didn't. I raided out to Ophelia. That's what I'm thinking of. But yeah, no, I'll also say the person for episode 100 that I'm trying to get, I won't say names for in case I don't get them, is also
definitely don't.
from VTuber, which in this case now it's like, yeah, now people know, okay, if it's not from VTuber, then
is there anybody else that was, well, Carrot, funny enough, one of the people who's episode 4, I think, later joined My Holo TV as Carrot. That, you know, it is not a doxing or new persona situation that she joined as Carrot as herself. Trying to think, is there anybody else?
That was like pre-company.
Yeah. But for company VTubers, I had Obake Pam, and I did go through her manager for that. Very, very kind person, working me through back and forth, because Pam is incredibly busy, and
I
was just delighted that she was able to find time. But Yeah. Obviously, when you're working with folks that have management, corporate,
working through the
you're usually going
managers,
to have that different set of interactions. But at the end of the day, it still boils down to the same thing.
Yeah.
Just, all right, they're the go-between.
I've only had one instance where I had a guest scheduled. They were specifically a company VTuber, and the manager told me this thing, the guest told me a different thing, and then it ended up with the manager saying she got sick, she's unable to join the stream, and then on the same day I saw her streaming. Yeah, I saw her streaming on her own thing, and I'm like, oh, okay. So you dropped me on like number 99. And then you still need to schedule a backup guest. And then I don't know how you feel about it. I feel horrible. I feel horrible if I have to like reach out to a friend and be like, oh, I need a guest, because you know with the keeping it 1 week thing,
not having a schedule. That if I go a week without something, that's fine.
Not too much of an issue.
That, you know, if I see, I've had instances where I have a show scheduled for Friday and someone DMs me on Tuesday saying, hey, something came up, we have to reschedule. Yeah. That happens. Totally understanding. That's fine. And I might reach out to some folks that I know a bit better and be like, hey, I know it's a bit of a quick turnaround. Are you interested in this? Or just, you know, go down the line of folks that I have scheduled already and say, hey, someone had to cancel. Would you be interested in moving this one up a bit? Or just, if there's a couple days, I'll look around. But I've had instances of people 9 a.m. day of the show DM me. And that, you know, I've had everything from just, you know, physically bodily ill to personal circumstances, pet is sick, what have you, and goodness knows, the last thing I ever want is a guest on the show who is not at their best, whether that be physically or mentally. That is a disservice to them. It's a disservice to me as well, that I don't want to have a show with a guest who is dragging or distracted. That's
I can agree with that.
To pushing the issue there. And that I've had instances where day of the show, I think there's been a case of 2 hours before the show that somebody got sick and was like, hey folks, had to cancel, so sorry. And you know, it sucks. Yeah. But I do not have anybody that is, you know, sort of on deck backup that I could call at a moment's notice at 2 hours before the show or the day of the show and be like, hey, you're up, let's go. I don't have anything like that.
I've had a couple, but I've run out. Because unfortunately, you know, that's the thing. I pride myself on my consistency, because since day one, I've only missed 2 Fridays, essentially. I've only done 2 weeks where I didn't have a show. And the 1 week was because it was New Year's. And the other week was because I didn't have a backup and my guest fell ill the day of. So I couldn't... I scrambled. I did scramble to try and find a guest. And if people weren't available, I'm like, okay, you're not available for today, but that's perfectly fine. You came back to me. I'm scheduling you for the future. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've had relatively few instances of people having to call out or reschedule that. You know, it happens a non-zero number of times. My guess is I have episode 119 tomorrow. My guess is the number that I've had to, after publicly announcing the show, because I will usually announce the shows the week of, anywhere from 3 to 7-ish days in advance, a little bit. That I never announce more than one guest at a time, with very few exceptions, because I don't want things overlapping, cannibalizing. My guess is the number of times I've had to reschedule or, you know, say, hey, show's canceled, 10, maybe a dozen, if that. Very few.
And see, that's also the reason why I keep it for like the day of the show that I do the announcement tweet. Maybe the Thursday, like the Thursday evening my time, which would be...
Yeah, that's an interesting balancing act, because I totally understand your method of let's announce day of, couple hours before, that barring true crazy anomalous emergency, we're locked in, we're good to go.
Yeah, but also I can't really announce it on Monday because I'm streaming through the week. So if I announce it on Monday, it's that post is going to be dead by Friday. And also, I just like having the tagline of tonight on FNV show.
And since you have consistency, that your regulars can know, all right, look for the show this day, this time, and we'll find out who the guest is pretty close, but they know a show's going to be there. Since I have very little consistency, I'll usually change my Twitter name to say next show date. But even then, just because of how inconsistent my stuff is, but also because my guests, a lot of them will publish their own schedules, and that they'll have on their schedule, VTuber Talk this day, this time. So
yeah, which is why I would also message them early on in the week. Sometimes I'll message them, like, let's say the show was on a Friday. I'd finish the show on Friday, and then tomorrow I would message the next guest. Just to be like, hey, because some people post their schedules on Sundays. So, you know, if they want to put it on there, then I'm like, okay, there you go. We're set for this date. But yeah, so...
Yeah, that I will usually, like I said, have a couple days in advance, and that I will then post either at Go Live or sometimes, again, the day of, sort of as a follow-up. But then I'll have it pinned to my profile and have that there and let that circulate a bit, hopefully. I don't know if that's necessarily optimal versus day of only. That
honestly, no, I think it is
such a difficult thing to tell for statistics, because
I think it is, but I think it also, it's easier when the Twitter account is focused on just the show. Like, I've considered making an FNV show Twitter account so that everything FNV is on that. If people get a message from a random guy named Zarastro, they might not open it up. If they get a message from an account named VTuber Talk or FNV show, they might be more inclined. It's just another thing that I've thought of. Because
never really thought of it from that angle. But
because if you're gonna see, if you're just opening your message requests and you're just clearing them out, and you see, oh wait, there's a guy named VTuber Talk. What's this? You might be more inclined because it maybe,
because it's not just a name.
It's not just a name. Yeah.
Messages will come from a name, not from a title.
Yeah. Like, if the reason why I don't do email outreaches is what? You're gonna get an email from Zarastro Gaming. You're gonna ignore that shit.
Now, it might, at the very least, I think it would be smart to create a
separate
email address. I think that 100%
definitely
is a smart move, and for the exact reason that you just described. I'm not sure if a Twitter account is going to be optimal or not, because at that point you're sort of splitting the brand. You have to worry about where you're posting.
Which is also why I don't want to do that, because I'm like, I've got like super slow growth on Twitter and YouTube and just everywhere. So I'm like, I want to split it, but splitting what little I have is not going to work.
But for an email, I think that's something you should definitely do.
Yeah, and then I can also make like an FNV show, fucking business inquiries. Like, hey, if you have business inquiries for the show, message me there. And like, hey, sponsors. Actually, speaking of, this episode of FNV is brought to you by me. We don't have sponsors, don't worry. But I do usually plug a few things. So what you can do is you can go check out fnv.crd.co, which is the homepage for everything to do with the show. There is a Google Forms link that I have that you can fill out if you are a VTuber and you wish to apply to be to the show or to come onto the show for season 2 specifically. And there are also links to the audio-only platforms. The show is available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and Anchor FM, as well as, well, here on YouTube. If you want to see any of the previous guests, there is a playlist there as well the link to the playlist on YouTube where you can watch all of the previous VODs. The audio-only platforms are a bit far behind. It's quite time-consuming cutting them down just because of how slow it is to download them. But otherwise, that's it for my plugs. Make sure you go check out VTuber Talk. Jay is a great host. He's had some amazing guests and great shows as well. So hey, if you like FNV, you'll definitely like VTuber Talk. So you can find him on all of his socials. His links are in the description, in chat, on screen, in the show notes. It's everywhere. It's at VTuber Talk.
Mine aren't nearly as numerous or as fancy as Zara's. I just have Twitch and Twitter. It's VTuber Talk both places. No underscore or anything. Nice and simple. I put all of my VODs up on YouTube, and for that it's VTuber Talk as well. But I don't do podcasts. You mentioned it being all that extra work. I am far too lazy to do that. Like I said, I'm uncreative in that VTuber Talk was designed to be a low... I don't want to say low effort.
No, it's not low effort. It's just
commitment. That I'd be able to, set things up, and that the time I spend is the outreach, the scouting, but that I don't put in a lot of work on the back end to strip out the audio and then do a lot of leveling stuff for the podcasts. All the videos that I upload to YouTube are just the VOD from Twitch, and I chop out the starting soon screen. Yeah. And then I just upload it wholesale. Yeah.
To be honest, that's pretty much what I do with the Spotify and stuff, as well with audio only as well. Just chop out the beginning and the end. Maybe on a levelizer or something like that. But otherwise, it's generally just that. But the reason why it's taken so long for me to do the others is, well, one, time. Like, I generally just... I mean to do it, then I forget. And otherwise, I have to download the VODs from YouTube, or from YouTube Studio. And for some reason that has dumbfounded me, I've got good internet, right? I can download a big game in less than an hour. But let me try and download a VOD from YouTube Studio, and it will download at less than 1 megabyte a second.
Whoa.
For a 2-hour VOD at 1080p 30 FPS? Bruh.
That's ridiculous. For all that it does not so well, Twitch at least makes it very easy to download your stuff, and it is at a normal download rate. Since I'm not an affiliate, I only have 7 days to do that, so I have to make sure to do it quickly because they don't retain VODs, but at least I can do that with a click. Didn't realize.
But see, with that, there's that motivation of like, it's going to be gone in 7 days. With me, it's like, I know it's on the VOD. I know it's on YouTube. The people, I don't really have listeners on the audio only. I just have it there because I like podcasting and having it there as an option and, potential to expand the brand. But yeah, I don't have that pressure of like, oh shit, I need to download this thing within 7 days or it's going to be gone.
Yeah, and fortunately, knock on wood, I have never missed a download. That there was one instance where there was a Twitch glitch where the VOD was not saved properly, but I was able to figure it out, that I was able to go and do a highlight and just have the highlight be the entire stream.
The entire thing.
That worked, so thank goodness. But something that I check multiple times in the week because I like to think I have a pretty good memory. I still get paranoid that I will usually check.
Did I download it?
I did in fact download it, right? Yeah. I did download it, right? Because if it's gone, it's gone. I know eventually I will mess up. It feels inevitable. Mistakes happen.
Yeah.
I hope I continue to go a very long time without that, because I know that if and when it happens, I'm going to feel so bad. I will probably be more torn up about it than the guest. But, for me, having these records to be able to just go back and look and enjoy and be like, I did that show. And I hope I continue to remember as well as I have.
Just set a weekly, a daily reminder on like Google Calendar, like, hey, did you download the
Maybe.
show? And then you can be like, yes, I did. And like you'll get annoyed by the reminder constantly popping up.
About is that if I just set a super consistent reminder, it's going to become white noise and it won't even be a consideration anymore.
Yeah, that happens. Like I feel I need to change up
the keeps me on my toes.
Yeah. Like I feel like I need to change up the song that plays with my alarm for waking me up, because recently that song has been entering my dreams when it's actually my alarm and I'm not waking up because and it's a jarring song. It starts out super fucking loud, and but it doesn't work anymore. Not as well as it used to. It wakes up the people in my house more.
An alarm. I don't think I've ever hit that point with an alarm, or if I have and that the song enters my dream, I usually register in the dream within a bar or two. Oh wait, that's the alarm, wake up. But even that I think has only happened once or twice, and
I'm just a very deep sleeper.
Yeah. I used to use songs as my alarms. Nowadays I just use
false alarm sounds.
Times of different alarm sounds. Not that. I use that for a little bit. I hated it that I have something that is loud enough but also not stress-inducing.
The thing is, I need like a super loud alarm, but I can't use a super loud alarm because there will be a day when actually, even with this one that I have now, where I sleep too deep and I wake up the rest of the house. And then everybody's pissed at me because I didn't wake up from my alarm. And they heard it through multiple closed doors. Our dog doesn't like my alarm. If my door is open and it goes off, she will bark at it. And then that proceeds to wake up the whole house.
At least I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, but no, if I lived alone, to be honest, right now, I would have such a fucked sleep schedule. Because right now, at least I have other people waking me up at decent times. Let's put it that way. But otherwise...
My sleep schedule's messed up, but that's my own doing. And fortunately, I've always been good about waking up to alarms, so at least I have that going.
I used to be. I'm really not anymore. But okay, let's get to another question that I have for you. So, along the lines of branding and, content that you do, you mentioned that with one of the questions that I have, if you could rebrand, what would you rebrand to and why? You can answer that. What is your answer to that question? How would you rebrand VTuber Talk?
Now, when we say rebrand, are we saying that I'm still doing a talk show and still a disembodied voice? Are we saying that I would be rebranding with a model? Or are we saying it's no longer a talk show, entire channel is revamped?
See, usually I don't have to. I don't have to pick one of those three options. Usually, I'd be like, okay, let's say you're a fox girl. I'd be like, you're not allowed to be a fox anymore. What would you be? What, just in terms of visuals for like model? What would you be? But in this case, let's go with how would you change VTuber Talk as a talk show?
Okay, if I was to change VTuber Talk as a brand while keeping the same basic structure, I'd probably lean more into I would either go old-timey where, the neon light aesthetic, which you have for one of your signs here, and that a good number of folks use it because it's a pretty iconic thing in its own right. I'd probably add some more bells and whistles and make it not be so bland. I'm not sure exactly what form that would take, and that's part of why I haven't. Like I said, woefully uncreative, which is why I go for the plain and simple. And in a way, I think the plain and simple does its job very well. But
it does.
If I have to rebrand, I would probably find an angle that would be a bit more eye-catching. I'd probably lean into something, because it still has to be professional. That would never change. So it wouldn't be crazy off-the-wall gag show aesthetics, but I would either really lean into the old-timey, so a lot of neon, a lot of classic stuff, maybe even push black and white. Or maybe I would go with a more... I would just find something more distinct. So maybe that would be a bit future tech. Maybe it would be... I probably wouldn't go the fantasy route. I don't think that would work. That I might lean into the production aesthetics a bit more. So have things like cameras, have things like a more traditional studio set,
like this
really
one.
lean into the show business of it all.
Yeah.
And I would probably go that way.
Okay. You know, funny that you mentioned the neon but extra. That's kind of what I'm thinking of for the next season, because I do kind of want to get a new set and all that for season 2 as well, and use that one set throughout, because this set's not changed at all since the beginning.
Mine hasn't. Mine, I added in the on-screen chat box somewhere around episode 10. I went from just a typed out VTuber Talk to the logo that you see on screen now for the first anniversary. I've changed a slight bit of font and positioning for what I have on my lower bar, but it's so similar. The background is the same. And I've always thought, all right, I probably should actually get proper assets, newer assets, because everything I've had is just, the royalty-free stuff. But again, woefully uncreative. I haven't found anything or thought of anything that I like more. And since, for me, everything is about the show, that the visuals are extremely secondary. Most of it is eclipsed by the guest anyways, by the chat box anyway. So it doesn't really matter that much. So,
yeah, I'm just of like, I like the studio aesthetic and having all of that, and like, the guest sits on the couch. In this case, you're on a laptop on the couch. But the only thing that I've changed of this set as a whole is just the direction that the chat comes in from. I haven't changed any fonts. I haven't changed anything. Like, obviously the handles on screen change, but like, otherwise chat used to come in from the bottom, like how YouTube chat normally does, but it gets cut off at the bottom, and the newest messages don't show there. So I found a way on how to get YouTube chat coming from the top
down.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Because it's just also, you've got the arrow pointing there now, live arrow point. So that if you type hi, or like, hey, this is cool. then like, it comes in from the top like that. So
smart change. It's good observation there.
Thank you. But but I want to go into a more cyberpunky vibe with the next set, which would match with the next model that I'm trying to go for, quote unquote rebrand, quote unquote 2.0, because I don't think it's a rebrand entirely. I wouldn't consider it a rebrand, because as I said, I consider it a rebrand when it's something completely new. Like, I'm not a black and red demon anymore. Essentially.
Yeah. That's one of the things that's sort of nice about not being a VTuber. I don't need to worry about updating my model, or do I want to rebrand. That it is very simple to stay as I am, and that
as a disembodied voice,
clean, the general setup I have is clean enough that I probably will upgrade it eventually, but it's far easier to let the types of assets that I work with, for lack of a better term, languish and just go unupdated, versus if you were using a top-of-the-line VTuber model that you got 2 years ago, and it was the best, it was HoloLive level.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it would seem average or below average, just because of the progression of technology, and that as a VTuber, that you're going to want not necessarily to always have the latest and the greatest and fanciest model and, top of the line rigging, but the overall threshold of quality is going to move so much that you'll want to update to some extent, at the very least, to make sure that what you have is current to relative standards.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
But-
and it's been super cool for me to see people changing over the years. That a lot of my early guests, that the models they have now are not the models that you see on the VTuber Talk VODs.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
that's been
hell,
a really
some of
exciting
the
thing.
some of the links on some of my guests, some of those guests don't exist anymore.
Fortunately,
That's why.
relatively few of my guests have graduated.
Yeah, I've had.
Relatively few, and that's been so exciting to see. The thing that gets quirky is if a guest rebrands and changes their URL. I've had that a
Yes.
couple times, and usually I'm pretty good about, all right, when I see it, I'm going to go in and change the VOD right away. Sometimes I've forgotten, but that is what it is. But it's been really fun to watch people grow, because there's folks that, you know, when I had them on, they were, I don't know,
This
25 viewers on average, and now they're Twitch partner and they've got
Yeah.
hundreds of viewers, and goodness knows I will never take any credit for a guest growth, but it's
Oh yeah,
super
no.
cool to see that progression, be like, I knew them back
Before.
when, and you know, I get to watch that journey from
Yeah.
afar and to see how they've grown, and that's a really fun sort of
Yeah.
side benefit, I suppose, of doing what I do.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can think of just two off the top of my head that like completely rebranded, where I'm like, I'm not sure if it works, if I can like just change their handles and stuff, because it's going to be weird if I change the entire show and then, or not the end, because I can't edit the show. All of the
Yeah.
plugs I'll be
In
doing
those
in the middle,
cases-
the VODs, all of that, it's going to be the old handle and everything that doesn't exist anymore.
hmm In those cases, I usually just put in the YouTube description, such and such has rebranded to such and such, and have the links changed. But to have just a quick little blurb and be like, yeah, the links you see here are not going to match the ones that you see on screen, or that the name will not be what you hear me in the recording saying. This is the same person. They rebranded openly. This isn't a
Yeah.
obviously, if somebody graduates, joins an agency, I would not go back into the
Oh, yeah, no.
Hey, this person is now this person.
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
No.
That
No.
faux pas
Don't
of
do
highest
that.
regard. But
Yeah.
there's been plenty of people that have found a name, a model that speaks more to them, and that they're very open of,
Yeah.
you know, don't, yeah, this is what I want to be called as content creator now, use this name,
Yeah.
but that they are not going to denounce or hide their previous iteration of themselves, and that
Yeah.
being able to put in the YouTube description, hey, this person has rebranded such and such, in those cases is okay.
Definitely. And I've had a couple of instances where I schedule a guest, you know, with me scheduling so far ahead. I've scheduled someone, and then in the meantime, they've rebranded before the show.
Oh, I haven't had that, but I've had an instance where I had someone on the show and we were talking about their handle. And are you familiar with Poppy?
Poppy.
P-A-P-I.
P-A-P-I.
Now Poppy
Oh,
Wolf
Poppy.
was previously Poppy the Lich King.
Yes. Yes. I'm familiar with
Way
him.
back when his full handle was Poppy Fubar. And
I remember
on
that.
and on the show, we had a moment where we were discussing it, and he was like, yeah, Fubar is what people have called me since back then, but it gets kind of annoying when people come into my Twitch chat
And they call you
and
Fubar.
call me Fubar, and
Yeah.
my name is Poppy, but in their defense, if you're just coming in, it is logical enough that people do that. I correct him. It's fine. It's a bit annoying
fine.
though. And I
Yeah.
asked him, would you ever see yourself dropping the Fubar and just becoming Poppy? And he said, I don't know. It's just something I've had for so long. I don't know if I could see myself dropping it. 3 days after the show,
He did.
3 days. Poppy. Fubar's gone.
He's just Poppy.
And I DM him and I was like, did you know this on the show and you just didn't want to announce? And that's fine. Like, I wasn't angry, but I was
Yeah.
kind of curious. I was like,
Did you,
this is
did you-
funny. And he said, no, talking about it is what made me really consider it.
Yeah.
And then
You talking about it, that was the catalyst.
And after the show, I sat on it and then put in the request for the change, and they just happened to approve it really quickly. So I had to immediately go to the VOD. And fortunately, that's a very easy change. He didn't change any of his visuals at that point in time, but it was just hilarious that it was just... You'd think that he was debating me, and I fully believe he did not intend to mess with me or anything, but it was super funny to see 3 days afterwards because we had spoken about it, but then also to learn that it was because we'd spoken about it. So that's cool in its own regard.
Yeah. Like I've had that as well, where it's like something that we spoke about, like me and my guest, we spoke about on stream. Like, for example, with Small and Strong, you know him? We had a discussion. Yeah, is a cat boy, pink cat boy. That's
not specific at all.
No, it's not. But yeah, we spoke about stuff that, like, just general content, and he mentioned that he wants to do more stuff with, like, cat fucking with his game. And then I told him about this one guy I've watched, Dark Viper AU, where he does a thing with where it's like his chat controls mods in GTA 5 as he's playing through the story. And then, like, Small said he'll check it out, and 2 weeks later there I see Small doing the first stream of chat fucking with my game in that, and I was like, hey, that's pretty fucking cool. Like an idea, just a random thing that I mentioned, he actually took and went with it.
Yeah, the special thing for me has been, I don't do an anniversary, I don't do a birthday show for myself. I don't do milestone shows for 50, 100, whatever. The only thing I celebrate is VTuber Talk's anniversary. Yeah. And my anniversary celebration is that I do a 2-day, 24-hour charity marathon. The idea initially occurred to me at about the 6-month mark, and I was tinkering with the idea of a 24-hour stream, and one of my guests, I was after a show, I was telling them about the idea, and they said, don't do 24 hours. Everyone tries 24 hours, and even if you make it to the end, the last 6 hours are going to be painful. Yeah. And
rather do 12.
And the idea became, all right, I see exactly what you mean there, and that allowed me to mentally unmarry myself from the idea of it has to be on the anniversary. And I did 12 hours on the Saturday, 12 hours on the Sunday, and that's what I did this year as well. It is perfectly comfortable. It's what's going to happen for year 3, and that for the anniversary shows, it's an all call. I send out something to all my past guests, and it's a Google form. These are the days, these are the times. Just checkbox list, split out by hour. When are you available? And then
just come on.
Are you all right being on screen with others? Do you only want to be with folks that you have collabed with in the past and I can generally know or ask them? Or do you only want to be in a one-on-one? Vast majority of people will say, yeah, throw me on with anybody, it's fine. But I want to be able to accommodate those who are a bit more reserved and want to make sure that it's only people that they've interacted with before or that just want to have the one-on-one. But for me, one of the really fun things is when I get that list of, okay, all these folks have said I can put them with anyone, and that I get to play matchmaker. And I get to sort of, sometimes I'll take the easy way out of, okay, I know you and you have all collabed before. You collab regularly, so let's just get you all bunched together, and I get to have the whole gang, and that's super easy. I know it's going to be a great time. I know the dynamic that we'll have there. Yeah. But then sometimes I get to look at the names and say, you have never interacted with you. Yeah. I think you two would get along famously. I'm going to do that. I get to be together and be like, you're just now on stream together with me, and we're going to be chatting. And that during the first anniversary, I had an instance of that one of the people had actually told me in passing they were like, oh yeah, this person who's on your show in the past, huge fan of them. I hope to be able to collab with them someday.
You're just like,
and unfortunately, I was like, guess what? You're collabing with them. That I DM'd and was like, you mentioned that you wanted to collab with them. It's happening. And she was obviously very happy. And that during the anniversary show, midstream, that we're an hour, not whatever it is, into this particular segment that was going for a couple. And the other person mentioned, oh, I just got a DM from one of my friends, and they were like, I like this other person that you're on stream with right now. And they're like, yeah, I like them too. And it was just like the real-time validation from the
matchmaking.
It was just like, nailed it. And then they collabed afterwards, that she had VIP in the other person's chat.
Oh shit!
And that they're not best friends now, but they're good buddies.
Yeah.
And I would like to think that they would have found each other without me, but I do get the little badge of pride of,
you're the instigator.
I facilitated that. I knew this was going to work.
You're like,
that I get
they probably
to-
would have found each other, but I made them find each other. So
I made it
I'm
happen
gonna
just a
take
little
that bit of
sooner.
credit, then, you know.
I created that circumstance, and it's something that I do look forward to for just when I had the second anniversary, that I was really looking at it. And when I have the third anniversary in January, I look forward to it again.
Oh yeah, no, I like that. I would want to do something similar to that, but with me now doing like the whole season thing, I feel like maybe I'll steal that idea and do something after episode 100 to be like, hey, celebratory special episode of like some like also a you know, charity stream. I'm basically just stealing your idea wholesale.
Of all things to steal from me, please steal the idea of a charity stream.
And then just reach
The only
out to
thing I
everybody,
say
because I
is
still
if
have
you're
everybody on
doing-
Discord. So I mean, I don't have to go through the outreach process again. Let's go.
Or at least not the introduction process.
Yes. Like we might
That's
not
the
have
one thing
spoken in
I
a
tell
year,
people.
but hey, you were a
If you do a
guest.
charity stream, always be sure to use a third-party processor. So Tiltify, Streamlabs, or rather Stream Elements, I believe, has it. Twitch has its own integrated one. YouTube, I don't think does. But you do not want to do your charity drive as donations to you in any way. And the reason is twofold. One, tax, correct. And frankly, that's the one that most people don't realize, is that if you take in this money, even if you donate all of it, that
You
at
still
least
gotta
I
pay
know in
tax
the
on
U,
it.
and to what I understand, vast majority of other countries, if it passes through your hands, it is considered revenue. It is considered taxable income.
Yeah.
It also would then usually have fees, that if it is then being processed by YouTube or wherever, that place are going to have fees, whereas most of the time, if it's a direct donation to charity, they might take, you know, credit card transaction fees.
Yeah. Or maybe
Couple
like
cents.
1%.
Yeah, that something to make sure that the processing platform gets a baseline revenue to stay afloat, because the processing platforms don't operate via magic. They do actually take servers and all that, and they need something
Definitely.
to pay for servers. But that it's going to mean, you know, twofold. Not only is it 30% off the top from YouTube, and then whatever it is for the personal taxes, and then the amount gets to charity. It's just that little bit.
Yep.
But also then there's never the question, nobody can ever accuse you of saying like, wait, did they pocket that money? Did it ever get to charity? It's out of your
If
hands.
it just
it's
goes
clean,
directly
it's
through
simple.
to
Yeah, it is
to the charity,
just
then it's like, you know,
cleaner.
like, hey, I don't touch this.
Mhm.
I don't see a cent of it. It's all going there.
Plus, then for the viewers, most of the time that can count as a tax deduction, because these processing things, since it is a direct donation to a charity, most of the time will give you a receipt of some sort. And obviously it's going to depend on your country, your state, etc., how tax stuff works and
Yeah.
what is deductible, what isn't. But usually there will be to some extent that you can deduct things, or at the very least that if it is a donation to a streamer, that's never 0% will ever be tax deductible. So at least then you have a chance.
Yeah. I'm just always, when it comes to doing something big, I'm always scared it will flop because it has multiple times. So I'm like, I plan something big, and then I'm like, it's gonna be cool. It's got these incentives, and it's like it just doesn't. The hype isn't there. I enjoy the stream, but ultimately the goal wasn't reached of what was planned or something. So it's like I don't want to do a charity stream because I don't know if I'm gonna get people who might who would want to donate to a charity. I don't know if I'm gonna fucking be able to pick a charity.
That's part of why I only ever do the one a year, that it's not quarterly, it's not monthly. I, for a time, considered, do I just want to have it be perpetual? That, like I said, my channel's not monetized. Do I want to, at every episode, always have a link at the bottom for just, all right, what is our annual total? Or maybe even ask the guest, hey, what charity do you want people to donate to? And that for the show, we'll have a donation link for that charity. But I realized that would dilute it. That by keeping it to once a year, no more, it is special. And that is the only time that I really go out of my way and ask people to like and retweet my stuff. It is the one time that I call in those favors, that I say, hey, this is a special event. Any extra support would be really appreciated. And they've done very well. I didn't know what to expect year one. My initial goal, quote unquote, was, all right, can we raise $1,000? If we can do that, that'd be awesome. Obviously, any amount for charity is great. $5 donation. If we only raise $5, that's $5. Similarly, for anyone watching, donate generously, donate responsibly. $5 makes a difference. Statistically speaking, I think it's like 80% of charitable donations are $20 less. Most of them are $5. Most of them are very small.
Yeah.
And those $5 add up. It does make a difference. So never think that some amount is too small.
It's another drop in the bucket.
Like, usually $1 isn't going to be worthwhile because that will get eaten up by the processing fees.
Yeah.
But $5, that's still a donation. That is a real donation. And anything above that is gravy. And I put up $1,000 as, this would be nice if we can get there. I don't know what to expect. And then we hit $1,000 6 hours into the stream, into the first day of the stream.
What was the total for the event?
$4,030.
Holy shit! That's a good stream. So that was year one. What did you hit with your two?
$7,535.69. Nice.
And then what would you say is the goal for year three? What do you think you want to put the goal?
As always, it's
minimum 1,000.
Any amount is good.
Any amount's good.
But there was a gag goal that I had year one of, I did not think it would happen. It was if something crazy happens, if I get, I don't know, a absurd amount of raids and just a whole bunch of crazy generous folks, if I somehow, I don't know, something quirky happens with the algorithm and I pop off.
Yeah.
Who knows? That I wanted to have a backup of, I didn't want to run out and be scrambling for incentives. So I said, if we somehow reach $10,000, I will call my parents on stream and tell them about VTuber Talk, because they do not know about VTuber Talk. They do not know. I have kept this little secret from them. It's not because I'm ashamed. I think they'd understand. They know what streaming is.
Yeah.
They baseline know what VTubers are.
Okay. That's further than a lot of parents would.
Yeah. But it was the idea of, what's something I could only ever do once? And that is the conceptual carrot that I had there. And obviously we did not reach it year one, and we didn't get there last year. But as soon as I finished January 16th, 17th, whatever it was this year, as soon as that finished, I since that day, since wrapping up the second anniversary charity marathon, have been mentally preparing myself because
you feel like it's gonna happen next year.
Trajectory,
It's going up.
I have sort of been bracing myself and saying there is a very real chance. I don't want to put a number on it.
Yeah.
But I acknowledge that it is no longer a gag goal. It is no longer the backup plan of, you know, if the unthinkable happens and things pop off, that I have something to fall back on. Now I'm thinking, okay, I hope my parents are awake, because sometimes they go to sleep at like 9 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
And what happens if day 2 of the charity marathon, 10 p.m. or something, we hit it?
What are you going to do then?
I hope my parents are awake. That now I'm just sort of preparing, all right, what's the call going to be like? What do I tell them? Because I already have the line prepared of, you know, call and be like, hey, nothing's wrong. And the line that I'm going to use is, I'm doing a stream with a friend, and that, you know, we're not using names. They understand the concept of streamers and content creators not using their real name and such. So at the very least, I can say, you know, don't use my real name, and that I'm very optimistic, will be cognizant of that, and that they will understand why I am saying not to use my real name.
Yeah.
And just, okay, how do I then get them in and everything? And I have the plan, because I did, for the $5,000 goal, I told a friend who didn't know, and went really well. The only thing that was a bit of a bummer is they had a long day. They were exhausted, so their reaction was a bit muted, and they were more stunned than anything, but it still went really well. But that I am at this point looking to the 3rd anniversary marathon, being like, okay, it could happen.
Yeah.
It's not the crazy thing that it once was. And now I need to start thinking of crazier things of, okay, what happens after that? What happens if what happens if day 1 or early day 2 things just go really well? That I'm not expecting that. If you calculate it out, the growth from year 1 to year 2 is like 75% ish.
Yeah.
I don't know numbers, but we didn't quite double, but it was almost there.
Yeah.
And if you can almost double it, that's almost $15,000.
That is
and
over 10.
It's over 10. But then it's, what happens again if something pops off? What happens if we hit $15,000?
Yeah.
What if we, like, I do not expect to hit 20. But
what do you do? What do you do if?
What if that
you've got a plan for those what ifs?
Not yet, but I know that I need to make a plan.
Yeah.
My guess is that I will plan through 15,000 because that doubles from last year.
Yes.
And I might then have one more crazy thing. I don't know, but I still need to think of it, because obviously telling the parents, that's a big flippin' thing.
Yeah.
And that you only get that one once. So then it's sort of thinking, all right, are there other family members? Are there friends? I don't know. I'll figure something out. But the charity marathons mean a lot to me, and they're so much fun being able to get a whole bunch of past guests. I think the first year I had 29 folks, and I think I had 35-ish somewhere last year. And there were a whole bunch more that got back to me, were like, oh, I'd love to be there, but I'm traveling this weekend, or I'm on vacation, whatever. And I don't know. It could be that I have approximately 30 again, but at this point, I'm on the cusp of 120 guests, whereas year 1, I didn't think I'd get 29 because I had just under 50 guests at that point. So it was a bit over a half response rate there.
Yeah.
Less proportionally last year. And then what'll it be this year? Will it be half the guests? If half the guests respond, that's going to be like, I don't know, 60 folks. I don't expect that.
Yeah.
But it could happen.
Do you get the same guests that were on, or have you had people like be like everyone?
The invitation goes out to all past guests.
Okay.
Period. The invitation goes out to all past guests who are still active streaming,
Yes.
or at least active on Twitter. That if I know you're still around in some capacity, I will reach out to you. If, all right, they've graduated, it's only been a handful, like I said. Fortunately, I'm not going to reach out to folks who've graduated, obviously. But it's that question. Will it be another 30, which would be phenomenal? That was a great number. I certainly would not complain. But all right, what happens if 40, 50... What if it's just a really good weekend and nobody happened to have any plans that weekend? Or
The entire
now that it's the third,
the entire previous guest list, nobody has any plans, so everybody's down. What do you do with
now that
130 people?
in year 3, how many people are planning for it? Because year 1, they didn't necessarily know. In year 2, it's all right. Are you going to do it again? And I have been more active certainly this year in talking it up and mentioning it to guests, even during the show or at least after the show. I always say, by the by, I have an anniversary show. You can definitely expect to hear from me. Obviously, love to stay in touch. Reach out to me if you ever need anything, etc. But I don't know how many are necessarily mentally carving out space and time and looking forward to that. So we will see. And I'm just going to take that as it comes.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. That's a very interesting. I'm just still imagining what would happen if you had like 130 people say yes, and then you have to try and just squeeze
I'm
in.
very proud that I've been able to manage the 30-ish that I've had in 2 years, because it's still
that's
lot.
still a lot. Managing
and
to squeeze in like 30 people in like a 24-hour
it's just different availability.
Yeah.
And
because like by that, you already have less than 1 hour per guest. So you have to mix them.
Most of the time, it's not one-on-ones. Most of the time, I have 3 or 4 people on simultaneously, and it's just based on availability. So usually the first 2-3 hours, because I go 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific time, so that's noon to noon Central, 1 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern time in the U.S.
That would be,
and usually,
let me convert it to my time, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Yes, not necessarily a good time for you, but that for the first 3 hours each day, it's usually 1 or 2 people, because not a lot of people are either up early or they have things that they need to do in the earlier parts of the day. And then around midday is when it really picks up. And as it gets into the evening U.S. time, that's when the more people become available, both in terms of guests, and that's when I see viewership and donations spike. It's usually later in the evening U.S. time that happens, and that I just accommodate to schedules. So for those first couple hours, sometimes it's just 1-2 people on, but I try to make it so I'm not alone on the air. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. I don't think at this point that it will. But then it's shuffling people on and figuring out, okay, is there enough for these people to be on for 2 hours? Does this person only have 1 hour? And that sometimes if I have guest A, B, and C on, that, all right, A, B, and C are here for this hour. Person C has to go, but then I'll switch in person D, so it's still 4 people on stream, and just shuffle it around based on availability. It's a bit of, it's a logic puzzle at that point. And make it work, but it's a lot of fun. And I'm confident at this point that I'll be able to make things work, have people on at all times, and whether it is going to be 2, 3, 4. I don't know if I'd want to have more than 4 on at once, because that's when it gets
then it might get a bit difficult. How do you get all of their models on screen? Is it just like a Discord group, or do you make like a server with everybody on, or what? How do you manage the logistics of it?
For year 1, well, for both years, I've used a program called Video Ninja, and that's what I use for my shows, generally speaking. Sometimes I'll use Discord, sometimes video. Year 1 is video group call. And what I didn't realize initially is that it automatically tiles itself when you have more than 1. So it'll be, if it's 2, it's side to side, but when it's 3, it's
like a weird L.
Ones, and then like a 3 as a bigger one, and it's sort of weird. So I had that, and we were already live when I realized that was how it tiled itself. So I just made some text assets and put people's names under them for that. For this year, for year 2, that is, I had people do individual video sources and that I would just activate them, shuffle them in and out. On OBS, I just had 4 web browser sources, and that I would switch people's links in and out
as
and
they come in
move them around on screen as they came in. It's a bit haphazard, but it worked.
It works.
This year, because it's difficult since the number of people varies, that if I always had 4 people, I could just have the 4 sources in their positions, swap out the links alone, and know that people would be still evenly spaced. But then when it's 2 or 3 people and then back up to 4, that it shuffles around, and I'm not going to have... if I was rigid and had the 4 sources never move, then there would be awkward times where there's just space.
Yeah.
So I allow it to be, all right, I'm moving people around in real time, whatever. But for audio, since in a group call for Video Ninja, you can run audio. But if you're running all those individual sources, you can't do audio. So last year was audio run through Discord, and that people sent me the video links and that I plugged them in, moved them around as necessary. That's probably what I'll wind up with again this year, because I don't know of a cleaner way to do it, because I know if you were to run the video through Discord, it will also do that, or at the very least, it'll tile and have space between things, and it's not going to be as module. So to my knowledge, the video solution is the best that I know of right now. But I'm always sort of keeping my ear to the ground, keeping an eye out for tech and such. I have considered, I know that VTube Studio
with VNet
launched their own thing.
Yeah.
And I could do that I'd be fine spending the $16 or whatever it is on VTube Studio to have it set up and let people in that way. But I know that a non-zero amount of my guests don't use VTube Studio. So then I'll have to use VDO some amount of the time anyways. And at that point, is it really worth having 2 systems up?
Yeah. And also at that same time with VNet, comes the issue of you have to have the people added as Steam friends.
Yeah.
To be able to get them.
I'm sure that would be fine. That wouldn't be a big deal.
It's just, some people probably wouldn't want that. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
And some people just simply don't own it. Because for a long time after it came out, I didn't own it, because $16 might not be much for Americans. But if you're me and you live in South Africa and you pay 18 rand to the dollar, that shit's expensive. then all of a sudden that 18 or that 16
a lot more
turns into like 280. So that's 280 rand. That's a lot. I can buy so many monsters with that. Yeah, some just simply use a 3D.
Period.
Exactly.
And at that point, I'm already using video or whatever, so I still think at this point it is the simplest to just go with the method I had for year 2. But always keeping an eye out. You never know what might be developed.
Maybe. But so far, from my experience as well, Video Ninja has just been good.
Yeah.
Okay, then I feel like we've gone quite a while, and we can wrap it up soon-ish. So just real quick, if you guys have any questions, by the way, for Jay, feel free to click at the top of the chat box. You'll see a little blue box. There's a Q&A. You can click there and ask your questions, and I'll ask them once we get to
function. That's
something Twitch doesn't have.
That's something Twitch doesn't have. But what Twitch does have, they have I can't use polls because I'm not affiliate. I can't use
YouTube has polls as well.
Emotes. Yeah, that can do that. I have BTTV emotes. They aren't my own, but I've selected a couple that I like to have up there. But
yeah, unfortunately, I don't have custom emotes. Custom emotes are locked behind memberships, which is YouTube's version of subscriptions on Twitch.
Yeah, And also, you can't use other channels' emotes in your channel. That's one of the big things.
That's something that
I love
I
seeing.
hope that they change that so that you can.
That's one of the biggest things that I think Twitch does, just head and shoulders better than YouTube emote culture.
Yeah, definitely. But caveat, I think it's worth if you can change the prices, because I plan on making an emote only membership tier once I am monetized on YouTube, where it's like it's as cheap as possible. It's like $1, and then you unlock all of the emotes, because you're not limited to only unlocking certain emotes with tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3 or whatever. So it's like you get the membership, you unlock all of the emotes. So the first one will be cheap as fuck. It's like $1. For me, the cheapest that I pay for a membership is 7 Rand. That's 50 cents. That's less than 50 cents, actually. Because 7 Rand is that's 14 would be what was $1 way ages ago. Right now it's 18. So it's closer to almost like 33. It's like 40 cents. That's dirt. That's dirt cheap.
What a deal.
Yeah, so it's like you can get emotes at that price, and then you're still kind of supporting me a bit.
Any questions coming in from chat?
There are a couple, but first I do have one last one that I want to ask you, and that is what has been... Actually, these are kind of two in one. What's your biggest weakness as a show host, and what's the biggest hurdle that you've had to overcome as a show host since you've started? So weakness, something that is still holding you back, quote unquote, like, you know, not entirely holding you back, but that you feel is holding you back. And the hurdle is something that was but no longer is.
Okay, so slight definition change. I would say the perpetual hurdle is guest outreach, as we discussed earlier, for those reasons of just, it is something that will always be a bit of a challenge. It's something that is not in your control. That balancing act of figuring out where to reach out to people, the balancing act of following up but not being annoying, and also just sometimes you get a string of non-responses, and you need to just keep going and not be discouraged by that. And fortunately, I don't get discouraged by it. It's a little bit annoying, and obviously, you know, I don't mean to say that this is a fault of the people I'm reaching out to. I do not hold them accountable. This is just a reality that people are busy. People aren't going to respond to every message, and that's okay. It's just a challenge. It's part of how it goes, and it will always be there, and that's fine. But it is a challenge. In terms of weaknesses, I think it's another perpetual thing of I'm always trying to be as clean as I can in terms of my own vocality, trying to reduce the number of ums, the numbers of stutters, the numbers of, well, so, you know, etc.
Yeah.
And I think I'm pretty good at that, to be fair, that I am, in general, very proud of what I do at VTuber Talk, both from the professionalism side and also from the vocality side and just running things in general. But I do still try to be aware of different vocal tics or fallbacks or stutters as they come, and to try and keep myself as clean as possible in that regard. So I think that is a weakness that I have. I think it's a weakness that, frankly, everyone has, that there are very, very few people that are going to speak without the occasional stumble. You know what I mean?
With like perfect eloquence.
And just
pronunciation or no stutter.
There.
Yeah. We all fall back to some habits or whatever. Like I say I a lot. Simon, there's another one for you to count. It's just I recently noticed that my stutter's gotten worse. I didn't used to have a stutter. I've always had, like, you know, everybody stutters a bit. But like recently it's become a thing where it's like I will stutter and then I just pause. I'm like, bro.
Yeah.
Like it's actually developed into a proper stutter, and I'm like, bro, what? This didn't used to happen.
Growing up, I had a stutter that is significantly worse than what I have now, and that's part of why I'm a bit more cognizant of it than most would be, and that I'm the type that I think it is better to have the occasional pause
And think.
let yourself think.
Yeah.
Let yourself have that split second to find the right word, as opposed to having too many ums, uhs. But to be fair, 90% of the time, the ums and uhs are things that you yourself are not conscious of.
Yeah.
And for the most part, even viewers and other people in conversation,
They cut it out.
and it usually just... One second. Sorry, I just got something caught in my throat.
Yeah,
Most
don't
people
worry.
will automatically filter it. And unless you're usually saying every other word,
There
they're
it
not
will.
going to realize if it's not to that extent, most people aren't even going to register it. But I like to try and be cognizant and keep things as clean as possible.
Yeah. And I feel like it also just it adds when if you're, you know, trying to think of something. It adds to not have that long silence, because people might think, wait, what happened?
Did we lose connection?
Exactly.
And to be fair, since I don't have a model or anything to show, yes, I'm still here, I haven't disconnected, that's something that I need to be aware of myself, that I need to keep talking and at least have something to let people know, yes, I'm here, I'm thinking, and usually the pauses that I have will be shorter, but at the same time, most people are able to sort of read, all right, this is trying to figure out where the words are.
Yeah. Like sometimes there's just that one word that just escapes you, which usually at that point I'm like, there's this word, I'm trying to think of it. It starts with
Why can't I think of
this
this
thing,
word? I know this
and it's
word.
like I'm trying to explain it through, and it's like it starts with this letter. I know it, and then oh, I got it. It's something completely fucking different. It doesn't even have that letter in it. It's just completely different.
Yep, so that would be the challenge and the weakness.
Okay.
I suppose it's a bit of a cop-out because both cases are ones where it is a perpetual thing. It's not something that I necessarily say, oh, I know I'm always messing up on this type of thing. And I probably should put more thought into it. I like to think there's nothing that I'm doing that is really egregious and wrong. But at the same time, it's sort of a human thing that very few people will do something that they know to be egregious and wrong. Most people, for better or worse, need to have their flaws pointed out to them.
Yeah.
And even with good introspection, you're not always going to realize, oh, this is a big weakness that I have. So I try to be aware of things, but also I don't think that I have anything that is, like I said, egregious.
Yeah. Okay, and that's the last question that I had for you. So now we get into the
Now the wild cards.
Now the
What
wild
does chat
cards.
have?
What does chat
This is
have
the
to
scary
ask you? This you cannot prepare for, except for one question. The one question that's always asked. Did you skip to any of the Q&As of the previous shows?
No, I did not.
You didn't. Okay, so you don't know what this next question is, because this question's
Well, you
always
did
being
mention
asked.
one.
I did.
You did mention.
Oh,
the
I
question of,
mentioned
did you
that there's a
have fun?
question that gets. Wait, what do you?
The question of, did you have fun?
Oh, well,
You have
that one's
somebody who
lost.
asks that regularly.
That one's lost.
Oh, okay.
But
Well, then I don't know
one's-
what this one is.
that one's from Simon, and this next one is also from Simon. It's also a question that is always asked, and it's always the first question that's asked. So, are you ready?
Have at it.
How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
African or European?
European.
Do you get that reference?
No. I've never heard that one.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail, airspeed velocity of an air-laden swallow. African or European?
No, yes, now I know. Now I know. You just had to say that, and I'm like,
That's my
ah.
cop-out.
You know, that's a good
You just
answer.
got
We've not
thrown
heard
off
that
the
one
bridge of-
before. We've
You
not
just
heard
got
that
thrown off
one.
the bridge of death. African or European? I don't know. Ah!
I like that one. But do you want to know the proper answer?
I think that, well, if a woodchuck could chuck wood, that it also depends, are we asking per day in its lifetime at once? If we're going by per day, we're probably going to have to model it after a beaver, and how much can a beaver go through in a day since they're approximately the same size. I don't know off the top of my head, so let's see how
Bigger
much
picture. No.
can
No,
a
looking up.
beaver-
No looking up.
Oh, but, well, I guess...
Oh, what you're
is a
looking up, I
beaver a
want a
woodchuck?
beaver. I don't know what a woodchuck is. This is the
I'm
deepest I've
going to
gone on this
say-
question, on this
It's all about,
conversation.
you know, what is the weight? Is this a newborn woodchuck? Is this an adult woodchuck? There's different variables here. I'm going to say 5 pounds a day.
Simon, he's catching us off guard. But 5 pounds a day is wrong.
What is the answer?
A woodchuck would chuck as much wood as a woodchuck could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood.
Of course.
It's more abstract.
Because that's the thing, that they would do their best. And if a woodchuck could chuck wood,
Exactly.
they would chuck as much wood as they can chuck. Good for them.
Exactly. You see, you just gotta believe in the woodchucks and their chucking abilities. Their woodchucking abilities
I'm trying to
specifically.
think, are there any woodchuck VTubers? I don't know if I've ever seen a woodchuck VTuber.
Simon, on your design.
There you go. on the house,
Simon's gonna
redesign.
become the woodchuck. Believe in Bucky the woodchucky. Also, I'm just gonna do a quick roll call and say hi to people who have tuned in. Hi, Simon. Hi, Ailes4. I'm just gonna call you Ailes W4. Count Julius, Remexon, hi. You were here earlier. Catastro, Mafcio, and Zero Master. You just tuned in. One of our previous guests. Welcome. Once again, if any of you have any questions that you'd like to ask, go ahead. The next question that we have is also from preferably just Simon, and he asks, care to see the concept art I did for Jay? This is a rhetorical question. You have no choice in this matter. Simon, I
I'm
tried
very
looking.
curious.
I tried looking. Where did you send it? It's not in the server. Are you gonna DM it to me? Oh, there it is. There it is. Hey, yo. Doesn't look too bad. I like it.
I'm really excited. I'm not sure if anyone has ever done.
Although,
Very nice. Yes, because I
know
had considered the concept of, all right, if I were to make a model to have the TV head, and a couple other folks have done it, is the issue. So
yeah, there's this one particularly problematic VTuber.
Yes, I became aware of them after doing my branding. And so the funny thing was,
Just
I
to
found out about them, and
just
then I went to
just
check
a real
them
quick
out on.
interjection. I've posted the concept art in chat that Simon made, so if anybody's listening on the audio only platform somehow, go to the VOD, you can find it there. The timestamp is around 2 hours and 28 minutes in, and yeah, just okay, continue.
So funny enough, I found out about this other person who used a color bar TV head as their model, and went to check them out on Twitter and found out that I was blocked. And I was baffled by this because I had not interacted with the person. Was sort of okay. I guess they saw that I have a similar thing as my logo. Again, the reason I use the color bars on Twitter, woefully uncreative. I didn't have any design. I didn't have a logo at that point. So that was the simplest thing I could think of that would be eye-catching. It's that damn simple. Like I said, lazy, uncreative. That's me. But
Well, I mean,
at the same time, it worked.
You could take it
guess.
now.
I mean, well,
You could take it
so
now.
I saw that they had me blocked, and I was like, okay, I guess they weren't fond of me doing that thing. Maybe they think I'm trying to copy them. Whatever, so be it. I've never interacted with them. It is what it is. I'm not going to try and reach out to them. And then a couple months later, things come out about them being problematic. I was like, oh, well, cool. Glad I never tried to reach out to them.
Glad you dodged that bullet.
Fortunately, anybody who has seen me, heard me, you know, my voice is very different from that person's.
Yeah.
I've once had anybody confuse us, thank goodness. But yes, I am aware that there was somebody who had a TV head as a design was problematic. And yes, that is a factor of why, if I were to tinker around with model ideas, that is not a model that I would go with in all likelihood. Maybe because it's been a while since they've been gone, and the community has probably grown enough, and enough people have probably forgotten that and like I said, I am known to be obviously not this person.
Yeah.
So
I feel like then, there's a chance.
It may be enough time that if I wanted to, that I would allow myself to entertain the idea of going that route, because that is certainly the most logical and obvious route for me if I were to get a model. But in general, I do like you got the suit and tie and everything. Very nice, very clean. So
I agree.
Thank you so much for that little design art. I don't know if anybody has ever actually done that type of thing for me before. So
first ever
well
VTuber Talk fan art from Simon. Let's go!
Yeah.
Now you need to make a fan art tag. Now you need to make a fan art tag.
I had one or two people do like pseudo fan art, not really having a
reference to go off of.
I'm not sure. It might just be the first VTuber Talk fan art. Now that I think about it. Either way, it's one of the first. It happens so infrequently that I can't remember.
Let's go. We got a first happening here. I'm happy. But okay. Interesting question from Zero Master. Zero, we kind of covered this a bit earlier. The question is, how do you select your guests? Do they need to have a certain quality to them, or are there other reasons?
There is no quantitative requirement that I look for. I do not look for a follower number, a viewer count number. Goodness knows I have had people that are and are not Twitch partners. That makes no difference. Like I said earlier, for me, I bounce around streams and I ask myself the question, do I think I could talk with this person for 2.5 hours? That's the baseline mentality I take. And unsurprisingly, usually that is going to end up being a bit more likely to say yes to that question for folks who have larger followings, or, I don't necessarily go through every single stream methodically on Twitch and click on every person with the VTuber tag, tune in for 5 minutes, hop to the next one. I'm not that thorough.
Yeah.
I just bounce around. Whenever a past guest in particular raids into somebody, I pay attention for sure and will be sort of mentally taking notes, because if someone raids into somebody else, that's certainly not an inherent endorsement of them. But if I hear them being super hyped up, like, oh yeah, we're gonna rate this person, I love their stuff, that I make a little mental note. It's like, okay, well, let's stick around for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
See if this person might be somebody to keep my eye on.
And I mean, if it's somebody else that you've had as a guest, or if the raidee or the raider is somebody who you've had as a guest, then you can, when you reach out, be like, I found you through this person. Yeah. It's like you've already got some rapport with them, which, rapport is very important when it comes to outreach.
But otherwise, it's just, I'm really looking for who I think would thrive in a talk show environment. That, like I said, will usually tend to be people who aren't brand new to VTubing. It'll usually be people who, have double-digit viewers, that if somebody is brand new, just started,
they're not going to work.
It's just something that I think, for their own good, I would not want to put them in a talk show environment. That I think is a practicality.
Do you accept requests?
I do not. I have had a couple of people reach out to me in the past, and it's the type of thing that I have obviously considered. Do I want to put out a form? Because I know that most shows do that, and it's a very logical, practical, and easy way to get people who are interested, because then you are going to have their information. You're going to know that they're interested, which is always a good thing. For me, it's been sort of a twofold thing. One, the perpetual fear of, okay, I put out a form and people apply. I don't want people to think that I'm like playing favorites, or that if they don't get reached out to by me, that I have a problem with them or something along those lines. And that then I worry, even if this is me worrying unnecessarily about the potential for drama or politics or hurt feelings. And that for me, I have always just felt safer not. That is not to say that you and others who have an application form are doing it wrong. Far from it. Like I said, if anything, I think this is me just being overly cautious, being a little bit skittish about it. But for me, there's so many VTubers out there. I'm spoiled for choice. I will never be able to talk to all the VTubers out there. And I know that there's lots and lots of amazing folks, and I will never be able to get to them all. And that for me, I also like going in just knowing someone's content, that I don't invite someone on my show unless I have been in a couple of their streams, like at least 2-3 times, chatted once or twice. So hopefully when they see my name, this was a bigger thing, especially in the early days when my name wasn't around as much, that it helped a lot when I would be able to DM someone and that they would hopefully recognize my name from chat, even if I'm not.
I mean, hey, I recognized you the other day when I rated out to Rin Penrose.
I
rated out and I was like, hey, I didn't expect to see you here.
When did you see my name in Rin's chat?
Was it not in Rin's chat?
I can't remember.
When she did or was it, whose chat was it?
I've never had Rin on the show. I've seen clips of her. I don't know if I've ever tuned into a Rin stream live.
It was this week. Who did I write out to? On Monday, were you in Ophelia's chat?
I was in Ophelia's chat because
I think that's where I saw you. Yes, I read it out to her birthday stream.
Absolutely in Ophelia's chat this week.
Yeah. That's where I saw you.
Okay, I was saying, wait a minute. I know
it was Monday,
Rin
right?
Penrose, and she seemed super amusing.
I rated Rin on Wednesday. That's why I thought. So it was Ophelia and Rin that I rated on Monday and Wednesday respectively. Because I always when I can, I try to write out. Like even after tonight's show, I'll be writing out to someone, because it's fun. Why not?
The last question that I asked my guests, which isn't really a question at that point, that I have my last question of the interview, and the last question I ask all my guests is, what does being a VTuber mean to you?
Well, what does being a talk show host mean to you? I'm turning it on, okay, first you can explain. First you can,
I asked that question. I asked it with the framing. It's not what does it mean to be a VTuber in the literal sense, but different people get different things from VTubing. I've had people say VTubing lets me get in touch with my inner child. It's a way for me to relax. Some people say it lets me be someone or something that I can't be in real life. Others have had a more clinical answer and have said, I don't necessarily feel this emotional bond to my model, but I am an entertainer and I love the tools that I get from VTubing, that there's so many things I can do as a VTuber I can't do as a face cam streamer, and that I would always take this set of tools, this freedom of being a VTuber, and to me it is a mask that I wear that lets me be the most entertaining and fun version of myself that I can be. I've had people say things like VTubing changed my life, or it is how I can make a difference in the world, and there's no right or wrong answer, but that is always my big last question. I use that because it, one, helps to put a bow on everything, and also because while I never know the answer, after speaking with someone for a couple of hours, the answers always make sense. And I think it's a really nice way to end things. And then the last actual question after that is, who do you want to raid? That I let the guests choose who to raid, and they will usually look around while I handle the final housekeeping, do outro and all that jazz. And that way, we can send it to somebody that they enjoy and that way I don't have to worry about paying attention to who I'm rating. And I think it's a fun little thing to give the guest. Don't necessarily ask me who to rate at the end of this. I would need to double check because most of what I do is based on Twitch, not YouTube. So I'm not even sure if there's people on here that, okay, there are a few. We'll have to see near the end if they're still alive, but we'll get to that later.
Even then, sometimes the issue with rating on YouTube is not everybody who is streaming has like, because considerations are on YouTube that you need to approve it for some folks. Yeah, a lot of like company VTubers, for example, they will have it like you can't rate out to them. You need to only people that they are subscribed to can rate to them. I have it, whereas like I've got it allowed.
On the back end for you, does YouTube tell you in some way which channels you can or cannot raid into, or do you need to attempt to initiate the raid before you would get a bounce back saying you cannot raid this channel?
No, it will outright tell me. So I'll change my screen that I'm sharing real quick.
Before you try to raid someone, you can tell at a glance by looking at their profile.
No, not at a glance. I do have a lot of tabs. So I'll quickly just show you. So right here, if we go edit, customization, redirect, right? Here you can see search for videos from other channels. These are people who are live right now.
Okay, so if I can give you the name of a channel and you put their name in there and they don't appear on the list, that just means that they have closed permissions.
Pretty much. Like, let's say, who do I know is closed? Let's just see who's streaming right now real quick.
I see Pomu Rainpuff is live right now. I wouldn't have us raid Pomu, but I'm sure that hers are closed. I cannot imagine that Niji Sanji would have open.
All of theirs are closed. So you can see if you just type in Pomu, you can see they're live, but it's grayed out. So it's like redirect privileges are needed.
All right. Well, in that case, when it gets time for that, I will DM you a name, and you can check if they are open or not, because I don't want to say it out loud and like create an awkward moment of they have it closed, etc. And we will see if that works or not.
Okay. Otherwise, there are these two.
Yeah.
I don't know this one, and it's in Spanish, so I can't rate. I can't rate there.
No. But to wrap back, you turned my question on me and reworded it. So the question is not what does being a VTuber mean to me, but what does being a talk show host mean to me?
Yes.
Being a talk show host to me is a way for me to sort of let the event planner organizer part of my brain get some exercise, have some fun, and to create something that plays to my strengths. But more than that, a talk show host to me is someone who is responsible for creating an environment where their guests can be the best versions of themselves. And that I see it as a responsibility as a host to do everything you can to make sure that the guest is comfortable, having a good time, and is presented in the best light possible, and is able to light up and be themselves, talk about the things that they love. And that's why, for all the reasons that I've mentioned throughout this show, that I'm very particular and very proud of what I do to make sure that VTuber Talk is an environment where people can come on the show and have a good time and talk about the things they love and be their best selves.
Okay. That's a very good answer. I like that. I like that a lot.
But you can't get away from this. I'm going to reverse it on you. What does being a talk show host mean to you?
Just a talk show host, not a VTuber.
Yes, and then I'll ask the other one later, but I'll go with them.
You're going to give me a double whammy? You're going to give me a double whammy?
I can get the two. But we'll go first things first, because they are distinct concepts. So what does being a talk show host mean to you?
You're the guest here. I'm supposed to be asking you the question. I only ask you if you have any questions for me before we start the show. I don't know how to answer questions. I'm the host. I've never been a guest. I've tried before. It doesn't work. But no, if I will answer that question. So, what does being a talk show host mean to me? I'm gonna take this back to when before I started doing talk shows or doing this talk show. I had experience in podcasting and working for a podcasting agency that managed other people's. And I developed not entirely a love, but I enjoyed the idea of podcasts and I wanted to do that myself. So being a talk show host allows me to scratch that itch, and also it adds, how do I say this? It's a way for me to diversify my content because I want to grow my brand. So it's definitely not as deep as yours, as your explanation was, but it also it's a way for me to meet new people, new possible friends in the future. And yeah, I just force myself to expand, meet new people, and that's pretty much the gist of it.
And then what does being a VTuber mean to you?
It means for me to create content, because that's always what I've wanted to do. It's been I've wanted to be a content creator for a while without having limit myself in a way that facecam streaming would. And it gives me an avenue of having a way to express myself in any way that I can, or in any way that I want to. Like right now, I'm a demon gal, even though I'm straight, I'm heterosexual, I'm cisgender, everything. I just I want to be a hot gal. I enjoy I like using the model that I can enjoy looking at. So that's the thing that I can do that with that. And if I was using a face cam, I used to not be as confident in myself as I would say now. Like right now, I've definitely grown to love myself a lot more, and I feel like VTubing might have been able to aid that, because I've had to listen to my voice ever since I've started, so I've grown to love it more. And not having people specifically judging, because people coming into a stream will always be judgy. So if you've got your face cam on,
even a question of, all right, they are judging you, but it is, all right, I've tuned into this thing and I'm going to evaluate, am I entertained by this thing? Do I want to stick around and spend my time watching this channel? That there is that judgment there, and it's certainly nothing personal, but yes,
exactly,
when you're watching content, you're judging the content.
Yeah, so it's like, if with a face cam, I would then always be judged on how I look, how I dress, how like I've been wearing basically the same jacket for the last week because it's cold as fuck and it's the warmest jacket that I have. If I did that for like a week on stream, people would think I don't have any other clothes, or it's like stuff like that. Meanwhile, now with the model, I've been using this model for over
you can wear
a year.
The same clothes every day, and
exactly.
That's all right because it's a cartoon. It's a character.
Exactly,
yeah.
And I don't have to worry about how I present on camera or anything like that. Like I'm not photogenic at all.
I feel that I am moderately good looking, but the part of the reason why I decided to be a disembodied voice or be a PNG and not have a face cam is it's just easier. It's less stress that I don't need to worry about what I look like for the same reasons, or just what I'm wearing or anything like that. And my apartment visually, it would take way more work than I would want to put into it to make it look the type of aesthetically pleasing that a lot of content creators who do that have, because making
I would love to have like a stream room.
I know.
I feel like we all would.
This is another thing I've been pretty open about. I broadcast in a pillow and blanket fort sound booth that I upgraded somewhere along the line. It is now a soundproof blanket that I have draped over me and not just a comforter, which is what I had for the first, I think, year or so. But I have my monitors, but behind the monitors, I have a TV and some shelves, some small, like detachable shelves that either could be hanging or put on things that prop up the blanket. I have pillows along the back of it. And yeah, it's all draped over me such that I don't have the weight of the blanket pressing down on my head other than just resting on it pretty lightly since I have it all
So
split
how
out
are
and
you
up.
sitting?
I'm sitting in my chair. That's what the TV and the shelves are for, that it creates the frame to hold everything
Okay.
up. That and the chair that I'm sitting in keep things
That is
propped
wild.
up.
I've
But-
never heard of that. of a setup.
I've heard of a couple people doing it. Very few VTubers could, because since lighting is
Yeah.
obviously only going to be from the monitors in
Central.
here, that for a tracker it's not going to work.
Hmm.
I know of
I
some voice actors who do
know,
this. I know of some people
I know
who record
MatPat.
music that will do this.
Yeah, I know MatPat from Game Theory. He records inside of a closet with
Yeah.
with all of the clothes and everything in there.
Yeah, that's a simpler way to do it, but
Yeah.
obviously I wasn't going to move all my computer stuff into a closet, but also my closet bumps up against the apartment next to mine, so it would be more likely to have noise bleed, or actually, if anything, more likely to have the neighbor's noise bleed
Yeah.
into the closet.
Yeah,
than the
so
other
it's
way
actually
around.
going to have the opposite effect of what you want.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
okay, no, that
But
makes
that's
sense.
that's one of the things I tell people, that for the first 2 years of VTuber Talk, I broadcast using a Yeti Blue Nano USB microphone. It was a $99 microphone, and it worked. It was great.
I have a vendetta against blue mics.
Well,
I hate
here's the
them.
thing,
I will
wasn't the
never
Yeti Blue.
recommend them. I will never
It wasn't-
recommend them to people.
Because here's the thing. I've heard a lot of horror stories about the Yeti Blue. I used specifically the Nano. People who use the Nano, I've never heard of people having problems with that. For whatever
Okay.
reason, the Nano has just been much more reliable.
Yeah, the
because
blue Yeti and the blue Snowball, those are the two that people usually
Yeah,
recommend, and
well,
I hate
the-
both of
the
them.
The Nano is like the general Yeti Blue, but as the name would suggest, it's smaller, cheaper, but also for whatever reason, it's just been much more reliable for everyone that I've heard of.
What are you using
who's ever
now?
used it. As a treat to myself,
Sim
a
7B.
couple months ago, I did go whole hog. I was like, all right, if I'm going to be upgrading, I'm just going to bite the bullet. I'm just going to go with the last mic I will ever need. And I
Sure,
did
SM7B?
go SM7B,
Ah.
Scarlet, Cloud Lifter, all that jazz.
Ooh.
And it was...
And that's how you get this crisp audio.
But even back in the day, that $99 Yeti Blue, like, give me a minute. Vamp for time for a minute.
Okay, wait, vamp for time? What's that mean?
Just talk, fill
Oh,
the air.
Okay,
I'm
I'll
gonna set up
speak to
the
chat.
Nano.
Oh no. Okay, I'll speak to chat then. Zero. Yes, I am a mic snob. I will admit to that. When it comes to Snowball and Yeti, I will hate on them. If you use it, I'm not gonna hate on you. I will hate on the mics because they're overpriced and overrated. Actually, I don't know if they're overpriced, but I know they're highly overrated. You can get equal or better quality mics for the same price or cheaper. So yeah, if I were to ever recommend a mic to someone, which isn't an SM7B, I would recommend either the Elgato Wave 3, which is an absolutely amazing mic. I've been using it for the last couple of years, and you can hear it's pretty clean. Not to mention the software is amazing. You don't need to go XLR with it. Of course, having a physical thing to change all of the sliders and all of that makes life easier. but when it comes to it's good. The software is amazing. Like I can right now, I can mute the music for you and still hear it for me. I can boost up what Jay sounds like on my side. I can put on effect filters and all of that. And yeah, it's all really fucking good. And you can have up to 8 different audio channels output. I've got my Spotify running through music. I've got my mic in. I've got Discord running through voice chat. I've got my browser with all of that in a different thing. I've got game set where whenever I play a game, it goes to that one. System is just system sounds. Orgs is any sounds from OBS comes through independently through that. And it's just so good. And then you have one stream channel, which is just everything together. The stream mix, and you've got a headphone and a monitor mix. Everything's amazing. I will highly recommend Wave 3.
So I don't have a pop filter on right now.
That's a very big difference that I can hear immediately.
I can imagine it's a pretty big difference. Also, I haven't done anything in terms of leveling. Like I said, I haven't used this in a while. But this is the Yeti Nano. Like I said, $99 microphone. This is also, at this point, a 3-year-old microphone.
Yeah.
So I am sure it is a big difference. And also just distance-wise, like I said, I've done 0 leveling because I haven't used it in a while. So this is me a little bit farther away. I'm not sure if that makes it better or worse at all. But
still pretty much the same. Okay,
so that's good. But my guess is, yeah, it's probably pretty distinct compared to the Shure, because this is a $99 microphone versus, like $400 microphone, then however much it costs for preamp and all that jazz. But I feel that this is a very serviceable and still very clean audio that you get here. It's not necessarily professional grade, but this is what I used for the first 2 years. And one thing
if you just slap on a bit of EQ on there and actually do some work on the audio, it'll sound pretty good.
And one thing that a lot of people say, and I fully agree, it doesn't matter if you're a VTuber or a face cam streamer, you need to have good audio.
Always.
You don't need professional audio, but you need good audio. You shouldn't be using like a headset microphone.
No, please don't.
Don't do that. You don't want it to sound like you're on your cell phone or something. No. You need at least a baseline. But I think that for a new streamer, a new content creator, obviously, hashtag not sponsored here by Eddie Blue, that this was the one that I found, and I think it worked perfectly well for what I needed when I needed it. There's plenty of other brands that I've seen, but I always encourage people, I say, expect to spend $100 to $150 on a microphone.
Yeah. And with that, with that price range that you said, with the 150, that's the price for a Wave 3.
Yep, there you go.
And they go on sale.
And it's okay to have a USB mic. You don't need an XLR mic.
No,
unless you're producing music. If, as part of your content, you're doing covers and original songs, then you should get a XLR. You should get a semi-professional grade microphone.
Yeah.
But
even then, some normal mics are serviceable. Like I've done covers with this mic, and you need to put more work in on the EQ, on just sound production or post-production, but it is good. It's obviously not the level of like a Rode
but at the same time,
professional
I expect that what I have here sounds a lot better because I have my pillow and blanket fort sound booth, that there's minimal to no real reverb that you would get from the walls of my apartment.
Yeah. Like it's not echoey. You still, it's definitely like the thing I noticed instantly, it's not as warm and it's less bassy. It's more tinny.
Which is to be expected. It is just a smaller and less.
It's not an SM7B.
Complex and fancy microphone that this is. Yeah.
So it's not an SM7B.
Few things are. There's a reason that it is the gold standard that it is. That
Yeah.
if you ask basically anyone who does streaming, that is the
And
microphone.
I mean, if you're just going to look at any podcast, it's the go-to mic for podcasts, let's be honest. And that being the thing that you do, it makes sense.
And one sec, let me continue with the good one back in. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem. I'll just continue with chat then. Zero. I also used the Samsung Meteor or the Samsung Meteor for years. It's a $65 USB mic, and its quality is way better than many mics that cost double. Yeah. Honestly, it's just there's so many things when it comes to the different to tech, where it's like names increase the prices. Like I like Razer. Razer has good products generally, but they're way too expensive. Like, people are always talking up the Razer Kraken headset. I have friends who swear by it, and I hate it.
Okay, back.
Welcome back. With the better
I
mic.
always tell folks, if you're just starting out,
Oh, you're actually
do
a bit
not
softer
buy
now.
a Shure SM7B. That is a terrible idea. The amount of money that you have to spend on the microphone, and then there's the preamp and usually a cloud lifter, it is going to run you in US dollars. After taxes, in all likelihood, it's going to be close to $700-800.
Yeah, that's a lot. Because the thing is, it's an XLR. You need to have a mixer for it.
Yep, you
Sure,
need
the
it.
Scarlet Fire is also the best.
Yeah, the Scarlet is about 150, 170. The Cloud Lifter is about 125.
What's the
And
Cloud
then
Lifter?
There's the Cloud Lifter is this small little go-between between the microphone itself and
it's the preamp.
Yeah, it's the preamp.
Oh, okay.
And then the cables, because you need two cables, one for microphone to preamp and preamp to the mixer. Well,
Yeah. And all of those
the
are
preamp.
XLRs.
And those XLR
Those are
cables.
expensive.
I went with the middle of the road ones that just went to a local music store. Didn't want to get the cheapest. Figured I didn't need the fancy one, but that was about $30 per cable or something. It was somewhere around there. So, all that adds up.
It's not cheap.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not expensive, but it's not cheap.
Mm-hmm. But that is on top of, it's a roughly $400 USD microphone, 120-ish for preamp, and then 150, 70-ish for Scarlet. And that's just going to be the price it runs you, and then convert to your local currency. That's you can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it from any number of vendors.
I don't want to convert it to my local currency. Times that by 18 and you'll get it. Yeah.
I am very fortunate to be in a place that I have a full-time job and that I live on my own. I am not a rich person, but my finances are in order, and that I came to the decision that after 2 years of doing VTuber Talk, that I had enough expendable money, money to spend on myself, expecting no return on this unmonetized project, that I was okay and that I wanted and was excited to have this upgrade.
Yeah.
But I will never suggest that anybody who isn't sure that they,
Sure.
if you are not certain that you want to do something with the microphone, whether that be podcasting, streaming, recording music, or ASMR. So I know a good number of people that use this still as an ASMR mic, or some people use two.
I know somebody who used to use a Blue Yeti for an ASMR mic.
I mean, I did a ASMR stream as a reward from the first anniversary charity marathon using the Yeti, and it can work. Just level it out correctly.
Yeah, you got a lot of EQ.
But don't buy this setup unless you are sure that you are going to use it for a good long time. And
Don't buy it as a starter. Buy it when you're already doing it when you've already been doing it for a while and you'll continue.
Exactly. And obviously make sure that you are in a financially comfortable situation to do so.
On the other side of the
$99,
spectrum,
$150, have that Yeti, have that Elgato or whatever, have a good serviceable microphone, because you don't want to be using a headset microphone that's going to make you sound like this. This is not what you want to do as a streamer or a content creator.
Imagine running a show. I mean, no, I'm not looking down on anybody for doing that. It's just like, you know, I can't even begin to think of it. But certain situations, you know,
quality. Yeah, it doesn't need to be professional.
No, you can make non-professional things sound professional. Mm-hmm. There are so many videos on YouTube with even just there are so many videos even just on Harris Haller / Alpha Gaming's is or Senpai Gaming this is you know, on the channels there that will guide and show you how to make a cheap microphone sound pro. You do not have to spend that much. On the other side of the spectrum, I also, or not other side, on a different spectrum, but on the same side, I decided to treat myself earlier in the year with buying a Biodynamic DT990.
I don't know what that is.
It's an absolutely amazing studio headphone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You'll probably recognize it when I send you a photo. Biodynamic DT990 Pro. It's a 250 ohm headset or headphones rather.
I have a pretty generic. I think I have an Astro headset that I've had for a while, which is, you know,
Astro's good.
It's like $60-$70 again. It is a Yeti Blue Nano equivalent of a headset that it is more than just random Apple earbuds. It's not a small little dinky thing. It's not a studio setup, but it makes sure that I can hear things it makes things sound nice and pretty. Yeah.
Because no, my previous headset, it was a headset. It broke, and I was like, okay, I need to buy new headphones. But why? At that point, I had the extra expendable finances, so I was like, let me just buy something that I know is gonna work amazingly and will last. And there's the photos of
use those a lot, because that's not just for streaming. You're going to be using it while watching streams or watching videos, anything really.
Yeah. And I mean, I've even used it when I'm away from my computer, because the thing is, it's a 250 ohm headset. It's still got an aux jack. So right now I've got it plugged in the back of my I've got it plugged in the back of my Wave 3 for monitoring, and it's supposed to be going through a mixer or a preamp because it's 250 ohms, but it works. I can plug it into my phone, and I've been using it for work outside of the house as well, because my father's a videographer and we film school sports and stuff like that often. So if we're doing a stream on that, I need something to monitor it with. So I plug I use the headphones then.
Yeah.
And then I've got professional quality studio earphones out and about when we've got like the referee of the rugby match that we're filming. We've got him mic'd up with like a lavalier, and then I can hear what he says from across the field in professional quality.
I've been considering if I want to upgrade my headset, because what I have right now is perfectly serviceable, but at the same time, you know, whereas the line of diminishing returns is a big thing of, you know, do I want to buy a $150 headset? Is that worthwhile? Is just going with the DT990 here worth it?
Even then, the DT990 isn't even really like that expensive. Like, yes, it's expensive, but it's $170. It's not that. You get stuff. You get stuff that's more expensive.
For sure.
It's not an
insane. Has a sliding scale of expenditure, shall we say?
Yes, but like for that price, dude, these things are amazing. Not to mention the comfort. The comfort is
Oh yeah, that was the big thing. That fortunately, the one I have, you know, has nice ear cups and it has the padding.
Yeah.
Because if you're wearing it for as long as you are, you want to make sure that it's not uncomfortable.
Definitely. Because, I mean, I wear these things probably 12 hours a day. If I had to.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't wear mine for probably about that long, yeah.
Yeah. So, comfort is peak importance. Because if you're sitting with something that's, let's say, the one headphone or headset that I have to use at a different workplace sometimes, it's an on-ear earpiece which sits horribly. It's got like zero volume control on it, and it's just always soft. It hurts my ears when it's on there, and I can't wear it for more than 30 minutes at a time.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, of all the things, 30 minutes at a time, that's the biggest problem.
30 minutes at a time that I until it like starts actually hurting my ear a bit. And it's only on one ear. It's a one-ear earpiece.
No, not viable. Not viable.
Not viable. Don't get it. That thing's horrible. But it's connected via Bluetooth to the office's phone, which is on the other side of the room, and like not at my PC. So if somebody calls in wanting to book an appointment or something, it's like, you know, I have to use it, but I need to put it on, plug my other ear because it's so soft, and press it against the ear that I'm listening to, just so that I can hear what the person's saying.
For work. See if you can just get something better, because at that point it's going to be, you know, it's a work expense.
Yeah.
You're not using that expense at home. You're not using it for streaming. Goodness knows. See if you can just get something better for yourself.
Yeah. But luckily, that's not my full-time job. That's just temp, so it's not my issue.
On it and be like, hey, aren't you annoyed? I found this thing, and sell it as it's making their life easier, and just going with the base assumption that if they upgrade that they're probably just going to get, you know, a handful of them for the team. But it's a doctor's office. It's so annoying. Of like, oh man, this keeps going out. Well,
it's a doctor's office. There are only two. There are only two admin people there.
Well, then you know your audience, but also doctor's office. 30-minute battery life at a doctor's office. No,
not battery life. Just time that I can wear it on my head before my ears start hurting.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought it was like the battery life.
No, the thing lasts longer than I do.
Oh, okay. Darn. So you can't use that as a selling point.
No.
Well, still, I bet that whoever else is on the team is also annoyed by it.
Oh, yes.
Hey, can we get something a bit more comfortable?
None of us like it.
Doctors and nurses have specific shoes with specific insoles because they're standing on their feet all day and they don't want to be uncomfortable. And that if your job is doing this, that you're not looking for $170 headphones, but also figure out how much the ones that you're using now are, and just say,
I'm pretty sure they're dirt cheap. They're like $10.
I'm sure there's dirt cheap $10 things that you can get that are more comfortable.
Probably.
At the same time, just, okay, what's the budget here? And let's at least find an alternate, because if this is as cheap and as bad as it gets, there's other cheap stuff out there that has to be
better,
at least comparable, and a bit more comfortable.
Yeah. Okay.
I have no idea how we even got there. I don't remember how we got there.
We'll get back. We've still got a couple questions. We've got 3 more questions in the Q&A. The third question, actually, of the 5, is from Zarastro, and that is your personality to always be so accurate in what you say? I feel like
generally
you kind of talked about that.
It's just sort of how I've always been, that I think words are important and I want to be clear when I communicate with people, so I try to be good with my words. Sometimes I get long-winded, sometimes I get on a good rant, but at the very least you know what I'm trying to communicate.
Yeah. Next question, also from Zarastro. You seem to enjoy statistics. What is your favorite statistics fact?
I find statistics interesting in concept, and I find them useful in a lot of ways, but also recognize that statistics in a lot of ways aren't useful. That I took a high-level statistics course in high school and one in college as well, so I have a good understanding of data. It's not something that I necessarily work with on a regular basis. I don't pay attention to my own stream stats. Like I said, I do not care about growth or stats of VTuber Talk.
Yeah.
But I get amused by learning different stats and seeing different things because I think they help paint pictures and give context for stuff. And goodness knows, we live in a day and age where it is so easy to find statistics that I can just, type in the browser bar. How many people speak English? How many people speak Japanese?
Yeah.
Or, all right, I didn't actually end up searching how much wood can a beaver chuck or something. I'm not sure if that's even something that has been measured, but if there's information out there that's relevant to a conversation I'm having and it takes me 2 seconds to type that into a browser bar, that's worth 2 seconds of my time.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily try to incorporate statistics in everything I do, but I keep an open mind and just sort of, like I said, I think getting different information like that is very amusing and fun, and it's easy enough to do.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, if it helps add to a conversation, easy. There's the reason right there.
Yeah.
Then the last question, which is the second obligatory question from preferably just Simon. You know what it is.
Did I have a good time? Absolutely. Easy question.
Easy question, GG next.
Yep.
I'm glad. I've had a blast with this episode. I've not been able to talk to a fellow show host for 3 hours and 16 minutes on end.
That's definitely one of the things for me as a host that
it's been enlightening in a way. Refreshing.
I've had folks on my show that do either talk shows or are frequent collab runners plenty of times. But at the same time, like I've said, for me, every show is different. Every guest is different.
Yeah. The focus
that when you find a guest that has some common interest that you don't get to discuss very often, that makes it very memorable. That there's certain guests that I did a lot of theater in high school, and I don't get to talk about that very often. So whenever I do, that's really special. Or if I find someone who really likes the same anime, or if there's a more
what is your favorite
game
anime
or show, Code Geass.
Oh, best goal?
Yeah.
No, who's best goal?
Who's best girl?
Yeah.
I thought you said let's go. Best girl.
Well, yes, let's go.
Best girl. That's actually. Because that's the thing. I'm not the type of person to really pick.
Okay. Who's your waifu then?
That either. That's the thing. That it extends into VTubing, and I'm not really the type to have an Oshi.
Okay.
If you were to ask, I don't. I have a couple of folks that are some of my favorite streamers, and that just if everyone is streaming at the same time and I can tune into anyone, who do I tune into? Well, it depends on my mood. There's a couple, but I think that might be in part why doing a talk show wound up being something that I felt I was inclined to, because I generally really don't get starstruck. I don't, for whatever reason, get into the waifu or best girl mentality in anything. And I just see characters as characters, and I like a lot of the characters in Code Geass, and even if I don't like them as a character, obviously Rolo is the worst person in Code Geass, and it's not close. He's basically the only case of a character where I'm like, I don't know if you have function in this plot, but he does, and for what happens and how things happen, he actually does occupy a really interesting role, because his whole thing is to be unnatural. He is the one that should not be there. He is worse than an imposter. He is this fabricated replacement to the person that means the most in the world to Lelouch. He is an abomination by existence, a just total subversion of everything that Lelouch cares about. And obviously also the actions he does, he causes problems, which completely have some big consequences. But at the same time, if you have done a good job in writing a hateable character, that is a success on
Yes.
the writing.
Yes.
And I think that, by and large, just Code Geass for me, I do not think it is the best anime of all time. It is my favorite anime of all time.
Yeah.
And I think that it is a show that almost anyone can enjoy. I do not think it should be everyone's favorite. But for me and my taste, it's my favorite. I think all the characters have their strengths and what they do, either just how do they serve the plot? Are they entertaining on screen? What do they do in their interactions? And I think that by and large, just the characters across the board in Code Geass are fantastic. I love the plot. I love the twists. I like the genre that I like most in entertainment, not just in anime, but at large, is smart characters doing smart things. And Code Geass is smart people doing smart things. I
Yes,
like Death Note a lot for the
definitely.
same reason. I like ones like, heist movies, or not necessarily psychological thrillers, but ones where it's somebody outsmarting their situation or having to figure out a obscure solution. I enjoy action movies. And
You'd
totally
enjoy
fine with-
MacGyver. You want the MacGyver?
Yeah.
I accidentally tapped the mute
Yeah.
button on the mic.
But
I think I
Code
cut
Geass,
out, maybe.
You did for a moment, but you're back.
Oh.
But for best girl waifu, I genuinely don't have an answer. That I think they're all.
I'd
really
say
good. I
CC.
think, that C2 is really
C2.
good. Because the question for that is really C2 versus Colin is the
Yeah,
general.
That's generally, yeah. I was
Which of
just
those
checking to see
two?
if you were gonna say C2 or not.
Mm,
Like if I talk about ReZero, have you watched ReZero?
oh yes, I've seen ReZero,
Okay.
and
Okay,
obviously
who?
that one is a
Which
bit
one?
easier because there's a wrong answer, and the wrong answer is Ram, because it's not Ram. And the question is it Rem or is it Amelia?
Yes, and which one's the
and
correct
between the
answer
two,
between those two?
Rem is too good for Subaru. That the correct answer for Subaru is Amelia. And that I think for their characters, it does make sense at the end of it all for Subaru and Amelia to be the ones together. My
Okay.
heart aches for Rem, and that she is a great character. And I think that narratively, the pseudo tragedy of her character, of the unrequited love, adds to the story. And at the same time, if at the end of the day it is Rem, and at the end of it all, Subaru realizes, oh, he does deeply care about Amelia, but maybe he is not in love with her the way that he thought he was, or that maybe he grows closer to Rem. I'm the type, generally speaking in media, that I just watch and enjoy, and that I want what it is to be entertaining. And if you justify the character choices, the world building, and have some semblance of consistency and logic in your results of, okay, I can understand why the character did this, that this, even if they had a choice, and I could have seen them taking either path, as long as you justify that and don't just force it and be like, all right, wait a minute, they just did this thing which contradicts all of these decisions they've made. It doesn't match with any of the ways that they think or evaluate choices for the rest of the series, and at the last moment you had them do this. That's weird.
Yeah.
But I'm all right with along the way, if you write in, all right, here's shifting motivations, here are circumstances that change the way they think. You can do an abrupt change at the end where make it so choices and characters that they would have never considered themselves close to, or a circumstance where they have to make a decision that they would never have considered prior to that. If you create the circumstance where that shift is justified, I'm okay with that. As long as it doesn't need to be Shakespearean writing, it doesn't need to be the most complex, but if you at least justify it, I'll usually still have a good time. Okay. What I don't like is when people just, if you make the rules of a world and then blatantly ignore the rules of the world, or hand-wave things.
That's just poor writing.
Too much Deus Ex Machina.
That's just poor writing.
Yeah, if you're going to have God intervene, I want to know why God is intervening.
And you want to know who this God is and how this God became.
If we've had in this world building that gods are real in this world, and we know that people can call upon the gods, or that in certain moments that they will extend their favor to people who are particularly devout, or that, are the gods using the characters in a proxy war. I'm fine with gods having actual impact if you justify it.
Yeah, or you can use it as a Deus Ex Machina, as long as you then justify it later.
Mm-hmm.
And properly justify it. Don't half-ass it.
I want you to justify it pretty quickly, that if you're doing this, don't leave me waiting 2 seasons to understand why. That if you say, all right, this huge fantastical thing happened, and then as we have falling action in the aftermath, you explained these were the things that happened that led to this. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. But
so
to get back to
for Subaru, I think at the end of the day it will be Subaru and Emilia. I wouldn't be opposed to it being Rem and Subaru, but I think it makes more sense for it to be Emilia at this point in time.
Okay.
I have not read the light novels. I have seen all of the anime.
Is probably the best and most neutral answer I've ever seen.
I do recognize it's kind of a coward's way out, but
personally, I am all Emilia. I'm like all the way. I'm like, no, Emilia all the way. And another main reason that adds to that is the underrepresentation of Emilia when it comes to any kind of merch or fan art or anything. It's like there's a 2-to-1 Rem to Emilia, maybe even 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1.
People love the underdog story, and they blatantly set up Rem as this sympathetic character. The whole thing of that she is a wonderful, kind, caring person, and she was very brave and had this heartfelt confession scene, and gosh, the animation in that moment, the whole thing of the sun behind her and the smile, it was a immaculately done scene, that confession. And then to have Subaru and that it's going to tug at the heartstrings. It did what it was intended to do in terms of audience reaction, and I can completely see why a whole bunch of people will go to bat for Rem and why the fan art has wound up as it is.
Yeah.
But I think that's the point.
I just want more Emilia figures, okay? Like, I don't see enough of them.
Yeah, no, it does end up sort of being that way because they've set her up to be that sympathetic one, and that perhaps ironically the more central protagonist, as it were, ends up being pushed to the side. But they talk about data. They figure out, all right, what figures are going to sell. What do people want? Yeah. And it's Rem.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just how it works. In a similar line, are you excited or are you hyped for season 3?
Yes. I don't recall when it is going to be.
Next season.
I don't know if they've announced it yet. Oh, it's fall?
Yeah.
Ooh, boy.
It's next season.
Fall
close.
Is stacked. The summer season has been a bit of a lull.
This season, all I'm watching is Mushoku Tensei. I'm just watching Jobless Reincarnation. Last season, I watched a couple. This season, I'm just watching Mushoku. I mean to watch Horimiya as well. I'm not sure if that was this season or last season.
Did you watch the first season of Horimiya?
I did. I watched it with a friend.
It's just side stories.
Oh, right. Yeah, it is. It is.
I dropped this season because it's still fine, that if you are looking for some of the best, just fluffy rom-com stuff, it is still very good. It has not decreased in quality, but since these are just those side stories, there's not going to be real stakes. There's not going to be any significant character growth happening during these. I found it just not very compelling for me. But if you are really looking for that type of show, and that's just going to be sort of your comfort food show, I'm not going to say that it's done poorly.
Okay. Honestly, I've been finding a lot more interest in just like slice of life romance type stuff. Like my favorite, not favorite, but like it's probably one of my top manga genres. Where it's like I've been reading Rent a Girlfriend since.
Oh, I couldn't stand Rent a Girlfriend. Because every time they make you think that he's finally going to grow as a character, and then it's like he gets amnesia.
But in the anime
totally
or in
forgot.
the manga?
In the anime, and from what I
Yeah, the
understand, the
anime-
anime mirrors the manga.
It does, but trust me, it gets better. This last season that's aired now or is airing.
Nah, just every time
I think
he
the
has this
last
growth,
the
and then they reset it. They just completely reset all the growth. I watched the first season, and they ended the first season in a way that it looked like, all right, is this going to be the one where he took a really big step forward? Completely reset for season 2.
yeah.
First 2-3 episodes of season 2 looks like growth again. 4th episode reset, and that's where I dropped it. It was like,
See,
okay,
the thing is,
too many times. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 7 times, shame on me.
see, the thing is, I didn't what do you call it? I didn't finish the first season of the anime. I started reading the manga while it was still airing. I watched until like episode, let's say 7. And then I was like, okay, but I want to see where this goes. So I picked up the manga and I started reading as it was airing then. And I caught up and I went way past season 2 of the anime in the manga at that point. And it gets better. Go read the manga, don't watch the anime. Or maybe watch the last season of the anime because
I do not have the patience for that show anymore. It just, I can understand why some people like it. For me, it was sort of a masterclass in what I don't enjoy as a viewer.
fair enough.
The ones that I'll suggest for this season that are new.
It's okay. Wait, before you go into that, it's the 3rd season that's airing right now, and it covers probably, in my opinion, one of the best arcs of the manga, which is the film arc, which is absolutely amazing, and it introduces Mini Ayamori, who is also amazing. So
I've heard that they introduced another character and that she's good, all right, but also it's just another added to the not harem, and
also by the point where we are right now in the manga,
continues to be a bumbling.
At the point where we are in the manga, there are only 2 other main girls.
But there's
the others become irrelevant at some point.
Still no.
So
My big
it's still only Chizuru as the main interest.
Of course. My top recommendations for new shows this season: Dark Gathering. If you're looking for a horror show, if you like horror, and I usually don't like horror, but this one is super cool that it's doing a lot of really interesting stuff with spirits and horror. The main character is this little girl who is able to see spirits, and the main character can as well, without giving too much away. Main character has a condition that attracts spirits. He very much dislikes spirits. He has had bad experiences in the past and has done everything to avoid them. Meanwhile, the little girl is very interested in spirits.
Yeah, I've heard about this one.
But that spirits fear her.
Yes.
So she is able, the main character gets motivation and reasons, which I won't spoil here, to work with her, because that way the spirits are attracted to them so she can capture these spirits to reach goals. And I don't want to give too much away,
Okay.
but it's very high quality. If you like horror and spirits, it is dark, literally and figuratively, but also fun. The other one, my
Just,
top show
just
for
say
this
the name
season,
again.
Dark Gathering.
Dark Gathering. Okay.
But my top one for the season is called Undead Murder Farce. And if you like mysteries, that it is in a lot of ways trying to do things similar to Sherlock Holmes. And that's appropriate because Sherlock Holmes exists in this universe.
Wait, didn't I
As
start
does
watching
Arsène
it?
Lupin, as does Dracula, as does Frankenstein. For the first arc, you just have this character who is basically, he's an Oni killer, and he's working with a severed head of a person who they carry in a bird cage, and that the two of them
Did start watching this.
and they're a mystery team, and they play off each other. The crux of this series is not that they have actually brought in a huge cast of literary mystery horror and just classic characters. It's these two, the two main characters have such a fun dynamic that they both mess with each other. They both insult each other. They're both constantly poking and prodding, and it's not even a tsundere situation where, oh, she's being prickly, but she actually likes him, or he's being obstinate. That the two of them push each other's buttons, but they work together, and they always know that their jabs at each other, it's never personal. There's no emotional arc of, oh, you hurt me, oh, I took that personally, that was too far. They've worked together, they know their dynamic, and it's so fun. They're verbal jousting, but then also you have good, genuine Sherlockian stuff, and then also let's bring in Sherlock, let's bring in Arsène Lupin, let's bring in all these famous literary characters around this plot, and it's just really, really good. And like I said, I enjoy smart characters doing smart things.
And
so
that's
it's smart characters doing smart
exactly
things
that.
with a good dynamic. And now you're also just bringing in some of the most famous smart characters to ever do smart things. Hell yeah.
Sounds like a show that's perfect for you.
Mm-hmm.
I did actually, as you were describing that, I was like, I have started watching this. I started watching it when we recently got a new Netflix subscription, and I was like, you know, I want to test out my VPN.
Actually, no, that's in the US. I have no idea what the licensing.
It's available on Netflix in Japan. I started watching it, and I noticed, oh wait, if you're watching anime on Netflix in Japan, there are no subtitles.
No.
So yeah, which I think is kind of fucked. Imagine you are living in Japan, you not speaking Japanese properly or not being able to, you know, you're still learning the language.
Yeah.
You just want to watch some anime. So you open up Netflix, you see, oh, hey, this thing looks pretty cool.
Unfortunately,
watching
my
it.
guess is they probably do that for the exact reason of people not using a VPN to subvert the licensing limitations.
Yeah, but it's fucked up.
It's probably exactly to deter what you're trying to do, unfortunately.
Bruh. I can't help
Because
that.
that's-
I can't help that
because
they
that's why
can't get good anime selections down here in South Africa. Like, what am
is
I?
it
What am I?
available on Crunchyroll in your region, or is it just not available in your region?
I don't know. I don't really pay for watching anime.
There's different sites. The one that I use now, I'm not sure if it actually would show your region, UK, AU. No, they don't have it in there. That's tough. That certain sites will have sort of a database and say, all right, what title is available in your region on which platforms, because it does vary. That
Yeah.
you know, it's in the US, that's on Crunchyroll, like you said. In Japan, it's on Netflix, and then it ends up varying. So there's certain territories that might not have an active license, and that sucks.
Yeah.
So
Generally, when it comes to South Africa, we're pretty neglected.
yeah,
Like hell, just something completely different, but something that sucks about being in South Africa. I ordered a poster, right? I ordered a poster and I had it delivered to a friend in Texas, where we were trying to see if we could somehow get it to ship differently, because they don't, the people who shipped didn't ship to South Africa directly.
South
So
Africa, so they shipped it to your friend who would ship it to you.
yes, he shipped it to me over 2 months ago.
Oh, has it not gotten there?
It's arrived in Johannesburg.
Okay, so you still have
month ago.
tracking.
The tracking ends at Johannesburg
Oh no.
because USPS does not track any further. So the tracking has ended a month ago in Johannesburg.
And now you are not
I am
sure.
in Cape Town on
Is
the
it
other side
just-
of the country. It's
Is it just
probably been
very
stolen.
slow in transit, or
It's
is
probably
it
been
lost?
stolen. Or it's locked in
Ugh.
customs and I can't go claim it because it's in Johannesburg.
Oh no.
And I've been checking the mail. Anytime I go out and I come back, I open the mailbox and I check to see if there's a post or something. I've not received any SMSs. There's no, I've gotten zero word on it. So I bought the poster. Good thing I decided to go for the A4 poster instead of the A3 and paid like double the price. While we just tested out for the first time. So
Yeah. Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know at that point. Do you try and contact Johannesburg and be like, is there a way to look and see if this is in storage, or at least is there something that you can confirm it left your facility? Obviously, they can't track it past their own, but is it in their records? Did it leave?
yeah, and it's just
Or
who-
has there
who-
been a hang up there?
Who do I even call in Johannesburg? I don't know where it got shipped to there. Johannesburg is
yeah.
a massive fucking city.
Okay, so the shipping information doesn't name a particular
Like warehouse or something.
facility.
No.
I guess you would probably just go through the general customer service thing for the service you were using, and that they would look on their end to see, all right, did it ever leave that facility? And they might not tell you which facility it was, but like I said, they should at least have the record of, did it leave their hands?
I know it was shipped via USPS from Texas to Johannesburg, but yeah, that's still something I have to follow up on. Otherwise,
No, because it wouldn't be USPS, because it leaves their hands and they drop it off at Johannesburg.
yeah,
So
and
then it
then
becomes okay. So I guess like, the question that you would ask USPS is,
where did they drop it
what-
off to?
that how do I contact the Johannesburg facility?
Yeah.
I understand it's probably out of your hands at that point, but I'm trying to see if they can confirm whether or not it left theirs. But at that point, that might be it. I don't know.
Yeah. And otherwise, I've also previously ordered my own merch from Teespring. It came in.
Did that make it? Okay.
It came in, yeah. But it came in 3 months late. And
Damage.
it came in 2 days after I had requested a refund. Actually, wait, no. Sorry, that was the second parcel that didn't arrive. The first, I waited like 2.5 months, and I said I still haven't received anything. Can I get a reprint? Or I wanted a refund then. Then they said that we can give you a reprint, and I was like, okay, fine, do that, and just send it again. No charge for me. They just, they send it again, and then it came later. Later.
Ugh.
I had waited another 2 months, and I was like, okay, it's not gonna arrive. I requested a refund. They gave me the
Cancel it
refund.
and
It arrived
then
2
it
days
gets
later.
So you got it for free, sort of?
Sort of. And then the second parcel arrived. The reprint, it arrived like another 2 months later, but only half of the package.
Good grief.
Only 2 hoodies. The one shirt was missing. Because they shipped the 2 hoodies and the shirt separately. Why?
And
The shirt was
one
missing.
got lost. One
Yeah.
didn't. Ugh.
So somebody stole one of my Zara Hectic shirts. Which, by the way, merch. I've got them.
Yeah.
Let me plug my merch. There we go. But yeah, no, it's pain. It's pain. I'm not working with Teespring anymore. The quality was also meh, not worth. So I'm now working with Stream Elements. I don't know what their quality is like, to be honest, and I'm looking to move over to Fourth Wall at some point. They have legitimate proper quality. So yeah, and they have proper what's it, renown? I guess that's a proper word I could use.
Hopefully.
They're well known. Let me put it that way, for being good. But I think that we should wrap it up. I think we can wrap it up there.
We wound up on a whole bunch of tangents. Were there?
Yeah.
So that was the last question. Did you have fun? That we wound up on our own.
Yes, then we win further.
Hour or whatever.
Where
Surprise.
now it's been 3 hours and 45 minutes. Which
shocker! It's easy to get the talk show host to talk.
Yeah, and
what is the longest show you've ever had?
This one. I was about to say,
yes.
Congrats.
Wasn't going in, but I was like, wait a minute.
You've taken the longest. You have, yes. Previously, Simon. What was the previous ones? I think Simon might have gone to bed by now. Actually,
my record stands at. I know exactly which episode it was because. Unintentionally, it was episode 100 for me.
Oh shit!
And it was with Renslayer, aka Ren, on Twitch, and it was so the YouTube VOD, which has the intro cut out. So the only actual fluff in here would be maybe a minute for the outro song that I leave in. The full VOD is 7 hours, 14 minutes, and 34 seconds.
Oh my.
We'll round that down and call it 713 minutes. Let's say that the outro song is a minute and a half. I don't know. It's probably about that. So,
oh my,
about
that
7.25 hours. The next longest after that was about 6.5. And actually, that happened very recently because it was one of Ren's friends that almost got there. After that, it's like 5 hours, and then I have a handful in the 4 to 5 hour range. On average, my shows go usually 2.5 to 3.5 hours. But the record for me
my average is about 2.5.
7 hours, 14 minutes.
Yeah, no, my average is a solid like 2. Because usually, starting at 10 p.m.
Yeah,
it gets late. I get loud.
Yeah. Sorry for keeping you up.
And then, oh no, don't worry. I was probably not going to go to sleep soon-ish anyways.
At least it's still weekend into a weekend that it's not a Sunday night.
Yes, and I have the week off, so yeah, I can afford to sleep in a bit. But yeah,
so
no, it's been.
I did just send you a name. See, I know that they are live right now. See if they have raids open.
I know that name.
They are a past guest of mine. I would say.
Right, you mentioned them.
Yeah, very few past guests of mine are on YouTube, actually. So this inherently reduces the potential targets.
Well, let me just make sure. My thing is my thing is a bit behind because I don't think it updates as we go through. I think currently it's still looking at like 3 hours ago. It's just live streams, so there might be new stuff.
Oh wait, did they just go offline? They just went offline.
Did they?
Oh,
did they?
They did, yeah. I just refreshed on my end. They're not there. There's no way theirs are open. It's not gonna work. Theirs should be open. Oop, didn't mean to close that. Double check the exact name here. Next, it's that one. Try.
Kid, that person ain't streaming right now.
Try that.
I don't see them. Ooh, who's that? I don't know them. Let's see. It's open. Okay.
Yeah, let's go with that.
We're going there. Can you send me the link?
Booster. Some of the first guests that I had way back in the day. They are a married couple. Ellie is a necromancer. Booster is her ghost husband, who she has resurrected. They do a thing called Necro News, where they do, sort of gaming news roundup, and they also do different quirky things. They're currently celebrating their 17th anniversary and YouTube partnership. So,
Damn.
they also just won the Small VTuber Awards, that little thing recently, for most unique content.
Oh, shit. Let's go.
Yeah, so let's go over to them.
Let's go over there.
Also,
Yeah.
but again, thank you so much for having me on. This has been a total blast. I have my next show actually tomorrow at 5 p.m. It's 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. So it's going to be way too late for you that it actually is going to be starting right about now, right about this time tomorrow. So about 24 hours.
Now?
Yes, I'll be having Imakuni VT on. Also go by Rissa, but they are a Luck Demon VTuber, and it's going to be a lot of fun. That they have streamed for a very, very long time, so there's going to be some cool stories there. And we also both share a love for Pokemon trading card game for Game Boy and some older things like that. So again, thank you for having me on. As you hear,
it's been
call me VTuber Talk, and
been a great pleasure. As you've been an amazing guest now with the new longest episode yet. Just real quick, how does it feel to be the interviewee or the interviewed?
This isn't the first time I've been an interviewee. I think it's only it's the third time at least. I'm trying to think. I feel like there was a fourth, but it's very rare, but it's always enjoyable.
Well, I'm glad. I enjoyed it a lot. And that's going to be it for me. So let me quickly do the outro. Thanks everybody for stopping by. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of FNV. Once again, I have been your host, Zara. Make sure you guys go check out VTuber Talk on all of his socials, or go check out Jay on all of his socials. They're everywhere in the linked chat description. Just go click them. And that's going to be it for me. Our raid message will be Kappa, Zara, FNV raid, all caps, exclamation point, Kappa, just like that. And chat, you can copy paste them multiple times like that. We're going to be raiding out.
Also add on Jay sent us. That way they'll know.
Okay, so make it FNV raid.
Either Jay or VTuber Talk sent us, one of the two. They'll know.
Jay sent us. Add another kappa, just like that. Make it that. That's the new raid message. Zara FNV raid, Jay sent us. Zara FNV raid, Jay sent us. So yeah, that will be the raid message. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. Thanks everybody for stopping by. And I will see you all in the next episode of FNV. But until then, ciao for now.
Sun goes down, our spirits free. Nothing left but our energy. Take my hand, we can go and see a world unknown. Come explore with me. No, explore with me. Yeah, explore with me. No, explore with me. No, explore with me.
Make sure you all have your raid messages ready. Once again, it's Zara FNV raid. The Kappa Zara FNV raid. Exclamation point Kappa. Jay sent us Kappa. Just like that. We're raiding out in about 10 seconds.